More chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
It's Wrexham.
He's done it, the magic little man, Watkin. Oh, he scored! Steve Watkin has got a goal!
Ball breaks for Bowden, it's in early, as Rush likes it, and he'll chase it, he'll collect it, Ian Rush!
Bennett, and that's a second for Wrexham. Well, classic, changing defence into attack.
Conley! 1-0 to Wrexham, Carl Conley's done it!
Trundle for options, put it back to Morels. Oh, it's a good save! Oh no, it is, and it's in the back of the net. Andy Morel. What a goal! What a goal! What a goal from Al Ross and Cardiff! Folks, good wake your kids up. Something special is happening here tonight. Wales are going into the semi-finals of the European Championship.
Wanagati, Ferguson has definitely won it for Wrexham now.
Here's Mendy! There's that race-class roar again! Saved by Foster!
Wales are going to the Euros next summer. Wilkinson's wonderful Welsh women.
Wales! Wales have done it! They've reached the World Cup! It's him again! Champions! Wrexham are promoted! They have their storybook ending!
The first team in history to eat more chips and not let salad win.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast for one of the most recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. No Daz this week as he's away in Lapland mopping up after the fat man's Christmas party, but in a week when pedestrians in Christchurch, New Zealand were left scratching their heads by a series of seemingly official signs with messages including, "This area is slightly haunted but manageable." The signs, posted in various locations around the city, initially appear to be official postings from the local city council, but a closer examination reveals the words Christchurch City Confusion at the bottom instead of Christchurch City Council. Try saying that when you're drunk. One of the signs simply says, "Don't." Another posted outside an abandoned building says, "This area is slightly haunted but manageable." One sign that caused concern among pedestrians warns, "Walking speed limit 2.83 kilometers per hour." The signs were actually created by artist Cameron Hunt as part of the Little Street Art Festival. The idea was to make signs that look official, but with completely absurd messages, therefore creating moments of confusion, followed by little bursts of joy, Hunt told The Guardian. Hunt said the point of the art is to make people notice and consider their surroundings. "I like watching people's reactions. Either they laugh straight away, or there's a little bit of confusion," he said. The official look is really part of the setup, because if it didn't get to look legit, people would just ignore it instantly. But when you have something that looks official and then says something completely ridiculous or absurd, that's when that punch of confusion with joy happens. If any of these people needed a sign, it's this person. What sign would he have? Something like, "Warning, things are often closer than they appear." It's Jamie.
Good evening. Same old bullshit.
Did you have a good Christmas?
It was nice, yeah, it was nice. It was, to be fair, I only had a couple of days off because I've been busy working, but yeah, it was nice. Went out for Christmas Day this time instead of wrestling with a turkey, which was very pleasant. But yeah, nothing overly exciting. Nice, just nice chill time with the family.
We were just having a conversation before we started recording about our friend and somebody who scored a massive amount of goals for Wrexham, Paul Mullin, about the possibility of him coming back from Wigan off loan in January to Wrexham. I mean, it's a bit of an odd one, isn't it? Because what chance does he have of getting any minutes really in the Wrexham side?
Well, none is the brutal answer. I think he would struggle to get any minutes, in Wrexham side. I certainly don't see him being registered as one of the 25 when they have to, resubmit the squad list. I mean, the fact that he's returning from Wigan would suggest that obviously they don't want to continue with his loan. Which is a pretty telling summary of his time there. He's obviously not done the business. That also tells me that they were covering a sizable chunk of his salary. Because again, if they weren't, then you'd just persevere, wouldn't you? I suppose. But I think it'll be interesting to kind of see, I suppose, what happens with him. Because I think the reality is I think he, in an ideal world, and what would be probably best all round, is if he could find him a League Two club that is within a, logistically is in an area that works for him and his family, because we know how big that is and important that is for him. But yeah, I don't think him coming back to Wrexham in January is Wrexham's want. It's more, obviously, I think it's not worked out for him. The loan at Wigan's not worked out for him, which is a shame. I think we were all hoping that he would kind of do well there. A, because he is still our player, and B, because I think that there is still those question marks over his ability to do it at League One level, isn't it?
Yeah.
As amazing as he has been for in his time for us, his standout seasons were the National League and League Two, where he was on a different level. But League One, there is still that underlying sort of question mark over, can he do it at League One level? I'm not saying he can't, because just because it hasn't worked out at Wigan, I've no idea kind of how he's been used there or how he's played there, because I don't watch them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But I don't see him getting near our first team.
So it seemed like ages ago, but let's go back to a week last Friday and to the Swansea.com stadium, where Wrexham visited Swansea in the first game of the Championship just before Christmas. I don't want to dwell too long on this one, Jamie, but it's important we mention it because we didn't cover it. Let's look at the lineup first of all. I don't know about you, but when I saw this lineup, I wasn't massively excited because the midfield doesn't look particularly attacking. It looked like a defensive setup. I mean, did you have any feelings in particular when you saw this?
Exactly like you just said. When I saw the team selection, it rang of a team that was set up to just be difficult to break down and difficult to beat, and be defensive, which is frustrating, because as soon as you see a defensive-minded setup like that, you instantly think, well, where's the creativity coming from? And as it proved to be, there wasn't any.
Well, we have to detach ourselves from the Sheffield game, which we'll speak about a bit later. Obviously, it was two changes from the draw versus Watford, with Matty James coming in for Sheaf and Thomason coming in for O'Brien. I mean, I was there on the Friday. Usual performance we've seen before. First 15 minutes, really good start. Burgess then scored an own goal on 14 minutes to put Wrexham in the lead, and then Wrexham became passive with, attacking options really, really limited. Front two were practically invisible, and Windass and Moore might as well have not been there for most of it. Swansea started to add pressure in the second half. Eventually, 17 minutes, Potnick shoots from inside the box, hits Hyam and spins in the opposite corner of the goal away from Okonkwo to level the game. Swansea, now raised by the crowd, continued to press on until the 90th minute. Okonkwo came out to punch a ball clear that was being crossed in, but he punched it kind of above him and behind him. Swansea then put the ball towards the goal. Arthur looked at getting to it first, but Arthur and Hyam seem to get in each other's way. Arthur drops the ball pretty much on the goal line, and Ida toe pokes it in to give Swansea the lead, which was disappointing to say the least. And Wrexham lost 2-1. I mean, Jamie, as I say, I was there. I think the sad part from my point of view was, and again, I don't want to dwell on this too much because I think we've got more important things to talk about. And I think what we talk about Sheffield reflects on this game. We were very, very passive. We were very defensive. We were continuing to try and push down the wings with wingers that weren't good enough. We weren't making chances that were really stretching Swansea. Swansea, but on their part, weren't that good. They just did enough of what they had to do. And then once that goal went in from a terrible deflection, from Vopotnik. That got the crowd up, and then the crowd then started to push them on. Yes, Arthur made that clanger, but I'm not going to crucify him for that because he kept us in the game before that, lots before that, and he's kept us in other games. He made a mistake. We all make mistakes. It's just unfortunate that mistake happened to give away the goal. That's the way it goes. I'm not going to get all arsey about that. I'd rather have him in goal than anybody else right now because that's how I feel from that point of view. There are a couple of points I want to bring up, but I mean, what was your general brief feeling about this game?
I think you're wrong. I think the players all gave 110%. I thought they all put
Is this anything to do with the comments you received on YouTube this week?
No. Hey, no. I thought the lads were thoroughly put everything into the game. You could clearly see that the message that had been passed to the players about how important this game was to the fans had been heard by the players. They were full commitment. We were very unlucky to lose the game.
Daz can't even enter America now after what he said about a certain orange politician last week. So, there you go. Being honest, everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's fine. That's that gentleman's opinion. He's entitled to it.
Absolutely.
I don't agree with him, but there you go.
No, that's absolutely.
Opinions are like arseholes. We've all got one. So,
exactly.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
But,
and I am both opinionated and I am an arsehole, so we're all good. Look, it was like you say, without dwelling on it too much. You've kind of, your little summary kind of speaks volumes. I agree with what you said about Swansea. They weren't great, but I would like to just say one thing, which I think is quite relevant, is that although I don't think they were very good against us, I think you can see the signs in them that they are going to be potentially quite a good side. You can see what their new coach is trying to instill in them, what they were trying to do at times of the game. What I saw was a group of players who are adapting to a new way of playing and are at the very early stages of it. Some of the things
he's only been there, 3 weeks? Something like that, I believe.
Yeah. Some of the things they were doing were good. But they need to put the pieces together, and it's just going to take time. So it'll be an interesting one to watch to see how it develops. But yeah, you're right. Overall, they weren't fantastic on the night. Unfortunately, we were just not at it, were we? Like you say, first 10 minutes, quite optimistic really, because we started the game with a high press, intense press, and I'm thinking, we're going at them here, but we get the goal. Which was, a brilliant bullet header from the defender, from our perspective, anyway. You couldn't ask much more of Longman to do what he's done. He's got to the line and he's whipped the ball in and he's made it difficult to defend, and it's ended up at the back of their net. But then, that's then where the frustration came, wasn't it? Because it's something we've seen before, which is we get the lead and we just sit back. We sat back and we just didn't then go after the game. We didn't want to be on the front foot. And as the game went on, even though we were 1-0 up at half time, as the game went on, you could see what was coming. You could see what was going to happen. From an offensive point of view, to only have 5 shots during the game and only 1 on target is terrible. And you're not going to win games of football if you're not creating chances. No. And I think there were moments in that game where it was just you were a little bit infuriated because it smacked very much of the Cardiff performance, and it just, like I say, it just frustrates you because you hear all these stories before that we've drilled into the players how important these games are, but this is consistency now that we've seen this again in these big games that matter to the fans. We've seen the same thing now over and over again, and it doesn't look like either the players are not listening to what's being said to them, or they're not, it's not being drilled into them enough. Because, like we said a million times, losing is not a problem, but there's a certain level that you want to see from your team, and there just wasn't that intensity throughout the game.
You could see when Swansea scored the first and particularly the second goal how much they were up for this. They wanted to beat us with like it was the most important game in the whole of their season. Because
And
they were all the subs emptied the bench. They all came over to the corner. They were all jumping and celebrating on the second goal, literally like they'd just won the FA Cup.
100%. I mean, don't get me wrong. It helps. When you're at home, it helps because obviously they've got the vast majority of the crowd is behind them, and that makes a huge difference. That has a huge impact. But like you say, they were up for it. You could see they were up for it. There were certain elements of the game that they were, which were infuriating. I mean, their two front attacking players, that what was his name, Ronaldo, and then Franco. I mean, the simulation, I think it's the official term, isn't it? Was just it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. It was. I'm all for players trying to be clever and win free kicks or win fouls in certain situations. That's part of the game. There's an intelligence to it. But some of the stuff they were doing was just embarrassing. But if you're a Swansea fan, you've got to be looking at that and be embarrassed. But unfortunately, it was unfortunate the way that we conceded that second goal because, like you say, I'm absolutely not going to lay into Arthur for it. He's got more than enough credit in the bank for me.
Absolutely.
He's well and truly gained us more points than he lost us since he's been in the team this season. He's been outstanding in some of the games.
And he's still only 22. That's incredibly young for a goalkeeper.
Yeah, 100%.
It really is. But to be at the level of a shot stopper that he is, incredibly young.
The main thing I hope it doesn't kind of deter him from is continuing to come out for balls because I think, I said a couple of weeks ago that I personally felt I'd noticed quite a big improvement in that side of his game. I thought he was being a bit more commanding and he was coming for a lot more stuff, albeit he tends to punch rather than catch, but that's fine. That's the modern way. I just hope this doesn't dent his confidence too much to stop him doing that because, I think it's really important that your goalkeeper, from a defensive point of view, it's really important that your goalkeeper can command that box. Look, it was an awful mistake, and there'll be nobody more annoyed and disappointed about it than him. But look, for me, there's no major criticism to him for that mistake. Like you say, it's a mistake. We all make them. And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter whether it was through a mistake or whatever. We got what we deserved, which was nothing. We didn't deserve to get anything from that game, and we quite rightly didn't. Just a shame the goal that kind of gave the points to them was in that manner. But look, it is what it is. After that game, obviously, you're annoyed again. You're back in that realm of being annoyed and everything.
Well,
else.
this is the funny thing, right? And it's like I say, it's very difficult to detach myself from the game we're going to speak about later, which was on Boxing Day. But after that game, I really started doubting Parky's tactics because of the fact is that Windass and Moore had nothing. They had nothing to feed on whatsoever. Nothing was getting to them. Nothing from the wings. Nothing through the centre. Any long balls, Moore wasn't managing to stick. So literally they were getting nothing. And I'm thinking, we've got good players. Why are we not giving them? As you rightly said, 5 shots, 1 on target, and that's a trend. As is the trend of us going ahead and then conceding, and either conceding for a draw or conceding for a loss. However, I've now got to add a caveat to that because obviously, what we say on Boxing Day, which we'll talk about in a second. I've got 2 points, 2 bad points. One, O'Brien came on as a replacement, as a sub, was fouled by Galbraith. He was only on for 6 minutes, went off injured. Apparently has a dislocated shoulder and a knee injury, which might put him out for quite a while. For me, that was a red by Galbraith. I don't understand why he didn't even get carded.
I think... Unfortunately, I think it was a red in the modern game. When I watched it back, certainly. I mean, again, you have to say in real time at first glance, I was unsure. So again, you've got to caveat that from the referee's perspective. I was unsure. When I've seen it back, I think in the modern game it is a red card. I genuinely don't think there was any malice in it. I mean, to be fair, and it's probably worth giving him a mention. I thought Ethan Galbraith was outstanding. He was absolutely terrorised us. I mean,
every time I look at the teams and I think I pick out players going, "Oh, I wonder if we could sign him." He's definitely on my list.
The thing is,
would be incredible.
The way he played in that game was a great example of what I was saying at the beginning about the kind of dynamic way that they're starting to be coached. You've got there a really competent central midfielder who's being deployed from a right back position, but it's not just he's filling a gap. There is a tactical reason why he's being used in that area. And you could see it. He absolutely terrorized us, picking the ball up from the back, driving through the phases of our team. We couldn't touch him, and he's got obviously a lot better distribution than a typical defender. He was outstanding, and I genuinely don't think there was any malice in it. I think it was just a poorly timed tackle. But I agree with you. I think having seen it back and in the modern game, I think it probably was a red. Really unfortunate for O'Brien, not only from the point of view that he'd only been on the pitch for 6 minutes and then has to get taken off injured, but the fact that it's a double injury is, real kick in the pills, because that's not very often that happens where a player gets fouled and ends up with 2 separate injuries. I hope he's not going to be out for too long, but regardless, he's going to miss some games for us, isn't he? I think him being on the bench kind of feeds back into what you were saying a minute ago about the question marks over the tactics and Barkey's tactics. I'm not pulling the band-aid off that plaster again. Like I say, I've been
as I say, it's just fortunate that we also have to talk about Boxing Day, because if it wasn't for Boxing Day, we absolutely would be laying into it about this because they were poor.
You're absolutely right. If we didn't have the Boxing Day game and we were just reviewing this game, you'd be a lot more critical. And I think you've got to call a spade a spade. This was again a very, very poor, tactically a very poor performance, as well as the performance on the pitch, because from the start, again, you've gone with the same formation, which you always go with, which is very predictable. Teams at this level will have analysts who will be analysing to death their opposition and what they do and how they play. Well, I mean, the analysts must have the easiest job in the world when they're reviewing what we do up until Boxing Day. Because
that's the thing. With this 5-3, 5-3, 5-3-2, we're playing with wing backs, and we rely heavily on the wing backs, and we had 2 wing backs who, let's be honest, at this level struggle.
They do, and again, the whole wing back debate is another conversation which is rumbling on and has been for weeks for different reasons. I think bringing it back to what I started off saying about O'Brien, I think what this does is this highlights the issue with picking such a defence-minded middle three. What this does is completely isolate your forward players, and this is why Josh Windass, I think, is missing a lot from games, because he's just not getting the ball to his feet. He needs the ball to his feet. I was, again, a couple of weeks ago, I was very honest in saying that I've not been as blown away by him as some, but that's not to say that I don't think he's a good player. He's a fantastic player. I've seen him for years. He is such a good player, again, and at this level.
Boxing Day, we'll talk about it later.
But for him to play well and influence games, he needs the ball to his feet, and we're not giving the ball to his feet. And then again, for Kiefer to be, apart from being the target man and being a threat in the air, for him to be successful in games, you need to get players around him. Therefore, you need your midfield players to run beyond him. And Thomason, Sheaf, James, Dobson, they are not going to do that. O'Brien, he is going to do that. So him not being in the team was quite, again, for me, granted, he's not necessarily been in the best of form recently, but if you're going to persist with that formation, you need runners from midfield that are gonna get beyond the strikers, and those picking Thomason, Sheaf, Dobson, James, though any of those 4 are not going to do that. But yeah, I hope he's not out for too long, because I think we've got a lot more to come from Lewis O'Brien, I think.
The second bad point, obviously, James McLean looked to have kicked out at Ronald while Ronald was lying on the ground. McLean was jumping over him and it looked like he flicked the boot at his head. Didn't get carded or even pulled up for it in the game, but the FA cited him afterwards for violent conduct and gave him a 3-game ban. So he missed, obviously, the Sheffield United game, and he'll also be missing for Preston North End tonight and Blackburn Rovers game on Thursday. I I just found it quite pointless. At the time in the ground, I didn't spot it because it was very, very slight. I thought he just jumped over him, and Ronaldo, because of his simulation, I just thought he overreacted. But, when you watch the video afterwards, there's definitely contact there. You can argue, is it contact that's intentional? The FA obviously thought it did. We're already short in that area. Was that just a mistake by James McLean, or genuine, or was it malice? And if it was, is that wise? I mean, I don't know. He is the club captain at the end of the day.
Well, obviously, I don't know for sure, and I can only kind of say what I see. And I know some people have a real issue with me commenting on things I can see and I don't know, but I can only say what I see. Did he mean to do it? I don't know. Only he knows that. I think when you look at it back, you have to ask yourself the question. To me, there was enough space and he had enough momentum in his run that he could have he could have cleared the player quite easily and didn't need to get anywhere near him. As he was jumping over him, he could have done that quite easily and didn't need to get anywhere near him. I think it's interesting that he's been done retrospectively, because when was the last time that ever happened? It's not something that happens very often.
Yeah,
is that his kind of his reputation and everything that goes with him is that caught up with him? Of the FA kind of thought, oh, we've got we've got a reason or an excuse here to be able to punish him. Who knows? Either way, if you look back over his time with us and you look back over his career, he's a very controversial figure, isn't he? And I'm not talking about any of his political beliefs or any of that jazz. I'm not talking about any of that. I mean, on the pitch, he's a very divisive character, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Home fans love him, away fans despise him. Even if you detach the political stuff from it, just because of the way he plays the game and the way he is and the way he antagonizes, he is a divisive figure. And I think, for me, my biggest issue with it is, like you just said there, he is our club captain, so therefore the absolute responsibility falls with him on the pitch. And also he's very, very experienced, and he also knows how much we're struggling in that position that he plays. I think he needs to be not getting involved in anything like that. There is no need to be involved in anything like that.
I mean, it was like 94th minute. So yes, we were trying to press for the goal, but we didn't look like we were going to score. So it was just a bit late and I just found it a bit silly, really, to be honest. And whether it's intentional or not, he knows that the spotlight is on him. Yeah. Unfortunately,
that's the problem, isn't it? Is that we don't know for sure whether it was deliberate or not. Only he knows that. And even if you give benefit of the doubt and you say it wasn't intentional, it was an accident, the only thing that for me with that is when I watched it back, as he's jumping over the player, he's got so much momentum in his run, he could have easily vaulted over the player to land nowhere near him. But yeah,
he didn't appeal it.
Well, that says everything, doesn't it? That says everything.
He didn't appeal, he just accepted it. Yeah, I think it's obviously if you appeal it and you lose, I think then it goes to a 5 or a 7 game ban. I'm not quite sure, so I don't know whether he was worried that how the intention, whatever the intention was, if it was accidental, it looked guilty. So therefore, he's just thinking, I'll just take 3 games and just move on.
Again, if it wasn't for the Sheffield United game, we'd probably be having a very different conversation about this.
You're absolutely right.
Now it's time for the away day footy scran review.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire. Yes, here we are, Christmas, and we're at the Swansea.com stadium, which must mean time for the away day footy scran review. And today we're going to go back to old school. Please, JB, please, Daz, because we're going to have fish and chips from Rossi's original fish and chip shop. So let's pop in and see what we can get. So, what do we get from Rossi's exactly? Well, we got a cod and chips with a mushy peas and a Diet Coke. Went cheap, £15.60. Yeah, ouch. Anyway, let's have a go at this. I'll let you know in a minute what it's like. So, cod, chips, mushy peas. from Rossi's Original Fish and Chips. Have to be honest, I'm in a bit of a dilemma with this one because the food, can't fault it. I've completely cleared my plate. I've completely cleared my peas. Fish, cooked to perfection. Lovely flaky cod. Crispy but not over crispy batter. Not too greasy. No bones. Chips, lovely, golden, crispy. Perfect size with little crispy bits as well. Mushy peas, not too watery, which is great. Great taste to them. Lovely. Can't fault the food. The problem is the price. Because I know I can get this and bread and butter and sit in the restaurant at Jonesy's in Wrexham for about 14 quid. And I paid £1.50 more for it, no bread and butter, and I'm having to sit in my car to eat it. And that for me is going to mark it down. If it wasn't for the price, this is close to a perfect. But I'm going to have to give it a 9. Oh, I'm in about a 9.5. And I might have to ask the boys what they think. But I'm going to say 9 for now. So congratulations, Swansea, just opposite the Swansea City Stadium, Rossi's Original Fish and Chips. At the moment, asterisk 9 out of 10. 9 fries out of 10. But it was very, very nice. Very good. I just wish it wasn't so expensive. It's a little bit of golden. Anyway, maybe I'm nitpicking. So, let's just get on with the game. Come on, the town! Well, the food was better than the game, that's for sure. So I've got to ask you the question, right? Because we have to take price into the whole marking things. Can
I just ask a question? As you were doing that, did you have your dick in your hand? Because you were very excited about that fish and chips.
It was. Listen, honestly, we know you and I are big aficionados of Jonesy's in Wrexham. You know that for me is a 10. That's the bar that I hold them all up to. Right? It was really close to that level. It was that good. But £15.60. I had to sit in my car. I didn't get bread and butter. It's at least kind of a couple of quid more than Jonesy's. I given it a 9. Do I give it a 9.5? Or was 9 about right? I'm asking you to have the final vote.
I don't know. It was so, apart from licking my screen and trying to taste it, I don't know what the food was like. I can only take your word for it. I'm not sure. I'll be honest. Given that you've got to remember that you're doing an away day footy scran review. I'm not sure you can really mark it down because you had to eat it in your car. Surely football food generally you would have to eat it on the go or stood up or. Excuse me. You wouldn't normally eat football food sat down at a table with Jeeves serving you.
So they had chairs and tables in there, but they were all full. So I couldn't sit in there. If I'd have sat in there and done this review, then it would have been different. But it was still the same price. In fact, actually, if I'd have sat in, it would have been more expensive.
Listen,
because there's a premium on if you sit down. Listen,
the performance on the pitch was painful enough. I don't think we need to give them the extra half point. 9 is plenty.
Fine, okay. So we'll go with 9. We'll go with 9. So looking at the table, they go joint top with Ipswich. Congratulations, Rossi's Fish and Chips. As I say, they go with Lukey's Big Boy, which was a lovely burger, that was. Stoke with a £half-pound bacon cheeseburger. Britain Fair Lansdowne with a cheeseburger still in there at 4th. Well done. Southampton with a double cheeseburger. Bristol with a double cheeseburger. Leicester with a pucker pie, which was shit. And then Wobbly Stadium with the real dog in a manky bun. Blech. Yeah, you're lucky you get one, to be honest. And it's not just because we lost 3-0, although that helps, to be brutally honest with you. So, yeah, well done.
Blackburn coming up, haven't we?
I know. The problem is it's a 12:30 kickoff.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what, and it's on New Year's Day. What's going to be open is the question.
That'll be inside the ground.
Yes, I mean it will be an inside the ground job, definitely, I think, and I'll just have to see what I can get. Hopefully they'll have a different pie or something, not a pucker pie, because I'm not reviewing a pucker pie again. It was like eating dog poop. Yeah. So on the Sunday, again back to last Sunday, Wrexham Women were in the Beauty Energy Welsh Cup to meet Penybont Women, and I was there at that one as well. Because because I was held at such a terrible time at Swansea. I needed cheering up, so I drove up and went to that one to get that game as well, which was much, much better, much nicer. Let's look at the lineup first of all. 5 changes from the Cup win over Aberystwyth the week before. Chloe Anker's in goal for Liz Craven, Erin Lovett for Phoebe Davis, Nat Clark for Leah Burke, Cara Jones for Maz Mahmood, and Abby Idenden for Katie Barker. Again, Jamie, just shows 5 changes, and yet you've still got a very, very strong side against a team, in theory, because they're from the Adran League South, that we should be beating.
Yeah, I mean, you know, at this level, it's incredible that she's got available, isn't it? Like you say, to make those 5 changes and bring in quality that she has, but then to have a bench stack like she had as well is a great place to be. Yeah, you know, credit to her. You know, she's utilising the squad as and when she needs to. You know, I don't think she's disrespecting. She isn't and hasn't disrespected any opponent by, you know, completely changing a full team and bringing in a load of under-19s or anything like that. You know, she's always picked a strong team, whatever that, even if that means some of our kind of key players getting a rest. But yeah, like I say, quality. She's got quality all over the place to pick from.
Well, strong showing by Wrexham, although Penybont, you know, did put up a lot of resistance because they basically defended with a low block, bought loads of bodies in the box, and then hoofed it up to their number 9, who basically tried to play off our defence. In fact, they kept Wrexham out for the majority, virtually the whole of the first half. It was only until added time at the end of the first half, whip ball in from the right by Hannah Snape, bounced through everyone and into the far corner to take the lead. Second half, Wrexham continued to add the pressure. 58 minutes, great long ball by Smith through, I mean, literally bypassed the midfield completely. Hughes ran onto it, one-on-one with the Penybont keeper, and then took it round and put it past her. 66 minutes, through ball by Lily Jones to Knox on the wing. Flat cross to Barker, who was right in the centre of the box, unmarked. Popped it in for 3-0. 86 minutes, similar to the third goal. Great long ball by Smith. Barker puts the ball into the box. Clark hit the ball off the crossbar, bounces in 4-0. Comfortable in the end, although Penybont definitely made it a contest, at least to start with. You know, which was great. Wrexham move on, reach the quarterfinals. Quarterfinal game not drawn yet, so we don't know who we're playing. But there's a chance we'll get somebody who isn't Adran Premier, because I think there are only 5 Adran Premier sides left in the quarterfinals. So yeah, there's Carmarthen, I think, are in there, and Trevelyan are still in there, and yeah, so it's possible. It's possible that we could pull somebody from another league, but that'll be played on Sunday, the 8th of Feb. Jamie, I'm not sure how much of this game you saw. Because I don't know whether iPlayer was behaving itself or whatever. I mean, as I say, Penybont made it difficult. They packed the box. At times, I felt Wrexham were trying to walk it in instead of actually. You're thinking, well, you've got 8 or 9 bodies in the box. You know, don't. You know, you're going to have to really play well to feet quickly with to create the space. Hit some long range shots, and hey presto, the first goal. That's exactly what happened. And then after that, Penybont started to get tired. But again, I don't know how much you saw of this.
To be honest with you, I was fucking raging that the women only won 4-0. To be honest, you know, why they couldn't stop at 3 or go and get 5 or 6 is beyond me. Why 4? No, I think to be fair, I only saw bits of it. Just to pick up on the old iFollow thing, from the bits I had available, and then from things I've heard, it was much better apparently. So, and like I say, the bits I was flitting in and out of, it was fine this week. I didn't get any, you know, rugby or golf or anything else instead. I think for me, the kind of headline. I think the 2 kind of main points from this game for me. One is, first and foremost, again, credit to Wrexham. They've done a very professional job. Yes, she's made some changes, but the bottom line is they've not conceded a goal. They've won comfortably. They've got through. That's the most important thing. That's all you can ask. They've been very professional. They've got the job done. The second kind of headline to it for me is, I think you've got to give a lot of credit to Penybont, like we did when we were talking about the Aber games, and we took them a couple of weeks before. You know, they are, and I mean this in the most respectful way, they're an inferior team, inferior club from the point of view of the league, the level that they play at, and the quality of the players they've got available to them are not at the level of Wrexham. There's very few teams. In fact, you could argue it's only Cardiff that are on the same level. So on paper, it's very much one of them that where you'd expect Wrexham to win and win comfortably, but they made it very, very difficult. Like you said, I think for the whole of the first half, they made it incredibly difficult for Wrexham.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, though, that's not a bad thing, because these games against Penybont, the 2 games against Aberystwyth recently, over the course of the season, will probably do this Wrexham team a lot of good, because it's a different dynamic that is good for them to challenge themselves against. It's not just a walk in the park. It's not just a rolling over. They've had those games where they've just walked over teams. This is where in this game, okay, although Penybont didn't necessarily offer much in the way of a goal threat for the duration of the game, they made it very difficult to break them down, and for Wrexham to actually put the ball in the net. You look at the score in isolation, you think 4-0, it was an easy win, but it was far from easy, to be fair. And I think in the end, it was just a case of the kind of the superior kind of fitness levels of the Wrexham team, as you'd expect, just shone through in the end. I think Penybont just ran out of steam a little bit, I think, because they put so much into that first 60, 65 minutes. It was hard to sustain that for the whole game. And in the end, Wrexham's quality just shone through. But like I say, very, very professional. You can't ask much more than to win 4-0. Well, I can. 5-0 would have been better. But
No, I was delighted, which we'll talk about later.
I bet you were.
Yeah, but Wrexham, I mean, this is the level of professionalism, isn't it? Well, other women's teams potentially are off enjoying their Christmas. Wrexham Women played a friendly today behind closed doors against Liverpool Women.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. Was there any mention of what the score was? Not that it really matters.
No, I don't think so. There was just a thank you from the Liverpool women and Gemma Rowan replying saying great to see you and whatever. But again, they didn't have to, did they? They're playing on a Sunday in what is deemed to be a break in the season. Not a case of go off and I mean, again, I don't know whether you saw before the Sheffield game on the Matchday Live. They had Nat Clark and Gemma Owen on talking about the women's season so far. And Nat Clark was saying that they were in on that day, on Boxing Day, doing some running, doing some training. So Jenny's keeping them sharp. She's not.
Testament to the mentality of Jenny Sugarman, and obviously she's the head coach, so you'd say it's stemming from her. Testament to her mentality. I'm sure she's being fair and has given the players. It's difficult to fully understand the kind of structure of like the hours they do and the expectations of them, because I mean, other than 3 players, they're still semi-pro, aren't they? So I don't know how that all works, but I'm sure she's been more than fair. But it's a great testament to the mentality of the, like you say, the fact that rather than just put your weapons down and go and chill out and have a blowout for 2 weeks, it's like, look, by all means, enjoy yourself on this during this time. However, we want you to come in because we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to do the other. And I dare say, from what you can kind of glean from the kind of the players and what we know of them, what we in interviews and things like that, I think they will very much buy into that. They seem the sort of group of players that are very, will be very receptive to that kind of approach. I don't think you'll necessarily get anyone kicking off saying, "Oh, why haven't we got such a day off?" or whatever. And hopefully, in the long run, it'll be, come the end of the season, it'll be for the best.
Well, we got the turkey sandwiches out of the way, and we were sick of turkey by the end of it. So Boxing Day was time for us to take on Sheffield United at the Stoke Kairas. And boy, what a game we got. I mean, if you weren't a Wrexham fan, I think if you were just looking, you're sitting there in front of Sky Plus, knowing that, there was only one Premier League game that ended 1-0 to Man U, and the rest of the games in the Championship where there was a lot of draws, I imagine you were sitting down thinking, I just need some entertainment. And boy, did you get it. Did you get entertainment? Jamie, I want to take this in bite sizes if I can. So let's just do it in bits rather than go all the way to the end. And then I'll give you a chance to give me an overall reaction. Let's look at the lineup first of all. Only two changes from the Sheffield loss. But it was the change in formation and the change of personnel. Thomason started playing left wing back. Now, he's never played left wing back while he's been a pro. Apparently, he played it when he was a kid, but he's never played left wing back before. He was in the place of suspended James McLean. Longman moved from left to right. Longman then obviously was on the right. From kind of from that side, so that's fine. Matty James is in for George Dobson. Nathan Broadhead was brought in up front with Windass and with Moore, which made us more of a 3-4-2-1 formation rather than the usual 3-5-2 formation. Much more attacking because fans have been screaming for ages, can we get Windass and Broadhead on at the same time? We got it. Again, don't push too far ahead because I don't want to say what's coming up. But when you saw that, did you go, oh, or, ooh?
I thought it was a Christmas miracle because because not because of the starting 11, because we had crackers for Christmas and J-Rod was back. I mean, no, no, we expected to see J-Rod back on the bench, didn't we? Kakachi being fit enough to be back on the bench is positive. Because I think we've talked to death about the importance of quality wing backs. The starting 11 it shocked us all, didn't it? Crazy really, because like you just said, us, like a lot of other fans, have been dying to see Broadhead and Windass in the same team from the start. That's the key to it. That you've got to remember, we have seen them on the pitch together in the last few weeks, but it's only been when we've been chasing games.
When we're in the shit, he normally chucks them both on, yes.
And I think, the bottom line with this is, and this is where, and there'll be lots of other people who have a similar opinion to me, but this is where, given that I'm, in this situation on this forum, this is where I get an opportunity here to say, well done, Parky, because for all the constructive criticism I've leveled at him over the years, and I stand by anything I've ever said about the way he plays. A lot of the time I don't like the way we play the game, but you can't argue that it's effective more often than it's not. But something needed to be done differently. Something needed to change. We needed to try something new, and fair play to him to have call it what you want, the maybe balls isn't the right word. That sounds a bit disrespectful, but for him to have had the guts to say, do you know what? Let's try this. Let's go with something different. And it was night and day, wasn't it? From the point of view of just the game as a whole. I know we're going to talk about individual moments in a second, but for the first time in a long time, I came away from that game, and it's not just because we won the game. If we'd have drawn the game, it'd been frustrating. If we'd lost the game,
I couldn't agree more.
But I came away from the game. I came away from the game thoroughly entertained and thoroughly I've enjoyed watching the game of football we played because it was exciting. It was attacking. We didn't defend all the time. We let the handbrake off and we went at them. And that's, as a football fan, yes. Do I want to see my team win? Of course I do. Do I want to see my team be successful? Of course I do. Do I want those things more than pretty football? Of course I do. You want your team to be successful, but you also want to be entertained when you watch your team play football. When you watch football generally, if you're a football fan and you watch football, if it's your team or not, you want to be entertained. You want to enjoy it. That's what sport and football is all about, isn't it? And it was,
I don't know about you. Again, I don't want to jump ahead, but I don't know about you. It took me back to the days in the National League because we were loose at the back and fiery up front. And that's what it seemed to be. Yes, we were letting in goals at the back, but we got back to the adage of we're going to score one more than you. And I know that tactic doesn't work, and it is not something that you can base a championship season on. But it was just nice to see.
We did. I think, to be fair, I think what this game was this was a game where both teams were exciting and threatening going forward.
Sheffield's defence, I think, was still on the bus.
But
I don't think they bothered getting off either, to be honest.
Defensively, they were both poor. You know, if you look at all the goals in isolation, whether you're a Sheffield United fan or a Wrexham fan, most of the goals are poor in some way defensively. But yeah, like I say, it was so exciting and so entertaining. And obviously, it's made a bit sweeter because you're on the right side of the result.
Absolutely. So again, when you look at the stats, a totally different game to the Swansea game. Swansea had 5 shots, 1 on target, 18 shots, 8 on target. You know, that's much more like a 50% turnover rate. That's much more like it. Shared possession almost, you know, and it's not as if Sheffield didn't play. I mean, 7 minutes across from Sariki on the Wrexham left to Patrick Bamford in the box, who leaned on Hyam and then flicked the ball with the outside of his boot into the far corner to take the lead. What a superb goal. We both looked at it because we were sitting next to each other and we both looked at each other and we went, what a goal.
I knew live when I saw it in real time it was a good goal. When I watched it back, what a finish. I mean, as much as I'm not... I mean, I know there was a lot of talk. We were interested in Bamford, and yes. I'm absolutely glad we didn't go for him because I think his injury record he's
still good. Apparently, he's only on contract till January while he proves his fitness. Sheffield. I was watching afterwards. I was watching a Sheffield watch along to see how they took the live game, and when he scored the second one, they're all shouting, "Sign him, Wilder, sign him." So he's obviously not signed yet.
Well, I don't know. His injury record is the problem, isn't it?
Yes.
I think there's no denying his quality. We've seen it over the years where he scored some unbelievable goals, but the technique, that was Premier League level technique. That was to turn what was fundamentally just it wasn't a set. It was good. It was a good cross into the box, but it wasn't anything spectacular. But he made the absolute most of that chance, and it was a superb finish. And I think. Defensively, from our perspective, I can understand why Parky would be disappointed because I think we've not done enough to close down the cross. But the actual finish, I haven't got a huge amount of criticism to. I mean, Hyam was the closest player to him, or Arthur, obviously, in goal. I haven't got a huge amount of criticism because there's very little you can do against that. I think the question mark and where maybe we could have and should have probably done better is stopping the cross.
And again, you can maybe look at Thomason because that was his side. But it didn't take Wrexham long to get back straight back. Immediately 9 minutes. Again, a whipped in cross by Thomason, from that left hand side, which was turned in by. Well, actually, went past the goal. Windass then put it back in, and it just went in off Bindon for an own goal. So we got back straight away, which was great. We did what we needed to do. Sheffield then scored again on 15 minutes with a pounced on cross again by Bamford. Long throw into the box, then headed on by Morn, jumped on by O'Hare. I mean, literally piled in there, put the goal in. Sheffield United with 3-1. At that point, Jamie, we'd obviously changed to this more attacking formation, which meant that's how we start. If you remember, that's how we started the season, being a bit more attacking, and we were leaking goals like crazy at the back. Were you scared that Parky might go, yeah, I was wrong here, put the handbrake back on and start getting us to play more defensively?
A little bit, but again, I think you've got to give him credit that he didn't do that because he very much looked at it, and I think the key is that we were playing. We were playing well. We were playing all right. It really crucial that we got that goal back early. I know it then went to 3-1, but it was really, really important that we got that. We equalised, pretty much instantly. Great work by Thomason to whip the ball in, and brilliant play by Josh Windass to put the ball, first time back into a dangerous area, and the defender's got no choice than putting his own net. Again, a little bit disappointing that Windass didn't offer any kind of celebration again, which I know isn't important.
He can smile. I've got a picture of him coming up, but he's definitely smiling. Definitely smiling.
But then, like you say, I think defensively, then when we concede that third goal, the second goal.
Did you fear the worst? Did you fear Did you think 3-1? Do you think that's going to open the gates?
Look, don't get me wrong. Immediately after we conceded the third goal, if you'd have asked me straight away after we conceded that third goal, can you get back in this and win this game? I'm not sure I would have said yes, because it just felt like defensively at that point, we were making silly mistakes and they were resulting in a goal every time we made a mistake. I mean, all three of their goals in the first half, or all three of their goals full stop, were, apart from Bamford's first goal, which we just talked about, but even that, there was question marks over the defensive side of it. The other two goals were highly avoidable from our point of view. And I think if on 24 minutes, when they get their third goal, if we hadn't have scored that goal and got 1 on the board, and if we'd have been getting absolutely destroyed after 25 minutes, I think he would have completely changed the way we were playing. But I think he saw enough in those first 25 minutes from us, from an attacking point of view, to think, do you know what, we can get at these. We've just got to keep doing what we're doing and try and shore up a little bit defensively. And to be fair, as it kind of transpired, that's kind of what he did, what we did.
Well, yeah, 28 minutes, Thomason with the corner, because he had a hand in just about everything on Friday night, from Wrexham's right. Beautiful corner, whipped in right into the meat of the box. Up pops Moore, pretty much unmarked, and just heads it directly into the goal. 28 minutes gone, 5 goals scored. With 3-2, we're in touching distance. I mean, what a corner.
Again, the timing of that second goal for us is crucial, because it's come only a few minutes after they've got a third. Again, if you go into half-time 3-1 down, it's maybe a different game. But the fact that we've been able to get a second goal and get it to 3-2 within 4 minutes of them getting their third goal, I think was crucial. And again, defensively from their point of view, it's terrible. You know, you've got one of the most lethal strikers in the league from a heading perspective, and you completely lose him at a corner. Thomason's delivery, you know, we've seen it this season already, is unbelievable. His delivery with that left foot. I mean, obviously he scored directly from a corner, but his delivery from corners is unbelievable. And I couldn't believe that Kiefer Moore got a free header on it like that. He's not going to miss that in a million years. No. As much as there are chances that he misses that you think he should probably score, he's never missing that. And I think we thoroughly deserve to get that goal back. And for it to be 3-2 at half time, like I say, from a neutral's perspective, what a game it must have been to watch from a neutral perspective. From our point of view, going in at half time, although we were 3-2 down, I'm actually thinking to myself, we're very much in this. Did I think we could go on and get a fourth or a fifth? I'd be lying if I said that I thought we could. I was confident we could definitely get back in the game. And
I thought draw. I have to be honest. I thought draw. I thought we'll get the third goal at some point in the second half, and then I thought we'd hang on, and we'd hang on for the draw. I didn't think that we would go as attacking as we did, but which was great, because it was like I say, took me back to the National League days for me, because there was no fear. Any fear that I'd seen before was gone, apart from maybe the last few minutes. Even when we were 2 goals up, there was still a little tiny sliver of it there. But
the thing for me with this was, one of the most important things in this was the timing of some of our goals. Like I've just said, the timing of our first, second, and third goals was really, really crucial. Because if you remember, we've gone in 3-2 down at half time. We've come out in the second half, and to be fair, they started the second half quite well. They did. They had the vast majority of possession in that first 10 minutes, and I wouldn't say they weren't battering us, but they looked very much in control. And then we went and got a goal against the run of play. Really.
Well, yeah, 51 minutes again. Thomason, this time from the Wrexham left, he was fed a ball, beautifully. Almost went round the back of the defence, crossed again a beautiful ball in onto the head of Longman. Longman. Again, made it fantastic. Headed it home. His first Wrexham goal at the to level the game. I mean, again, what a time! 6 minutes into the second half, it's 3-3, and you're kind of thinking, well, it's game on.
I'll leave the Thomason element for a minute, because I'd like to talk about him on an individual basis.
Of course.
The goal was a great goal from an attacking point of view. A great goal from a defensive point of view. Terrible. like I said a minute ago, the timing of that goal was crucial because it was against the runner play at that time of the game. But we've punished them for poor defending. What Ryan Longman's done there is what you want your opposite wing back to do. One wing back's putting the ball in, and what you want is your opposite wing back attacking that far post, not standing out wide.
It's funny, isn't it? Because we saw this towards the end of last season where Parky had said to Barney, you need to come in. Whenever it's being crossed from your opposite side, you need to come in on the back post. And for some reason, Barney wasn't doing that until very late in the season. And it's the first time I saw it where I'm thinking, yes, that's what we want to see. Your opposite wing back coming in and pressuring on the opposite post to try and get in on the play. I mean, why do you think we've not seen that before now?
I mean, I think the wing back certainly over the last few weeks, obviously, they've had such an uphill battle from a defensive point of view. We've looked very out of sorts in the wing back area in recent weeks, which is hence us having this constant debate about without Kagachi and Kabore, the other wing back options we have are probably short of quality at this level. Why he chose to do it at that moment, I don't know, but that's what you want to see from your wing back, is you want to see them attacking. If you've got one wing back putting the ball in, you want to see your opposite wing back attacking that far post. You would hope that a lot of the time the ball doesn't get that far. It's being attacked by the centre forward or whatever. But ultimately, he's done everything he can. He's made it difficult for the defender. Poor defended, very weak defended. But fair play to Longman. He's come in aggressively. He's wanted that ball more than the defender, and he's done it in a legal way. He's not fouled him, and gave the keeper no chance. And like I say, a crucial goal, a brilliant time to score because it was against the runner play at that time of the game. And then once it got to 3-3, that was at the point I thought, yeah, we can go on and win this, because everything then just felt different. It felt like we were in the ascendancy. The crowd obviously reacted to that because it was early in the second half. Again, credit to Parky. He kept it as it was, even though we were losing at half time. He kept it as it was, and I mean, he doesn't often change it at half time anyway, but he kept it as it was. And yeah, we off we went in that second half.
Well, the game ebbed and flowed until the 76 minutes. And then an unfortunate bounce for Sheffield, which fell into Broadhead's lap, picked the ball up in midfield, drove forward, surrounded by 4 Sheffield players. None of them went anywhere near him, which was a massive mistake because you can't give somebody, a player like Broadhead, that amount of space. He slid the ball through to Moore in the box, who lifted it up over the defender and into the goal for a delighted racecourse and to go 4-3 in the lead. I mean, there's his face there in the top, if you're looking on YouTube, it's in the top left-hand corner. How he was so delighted to score that goal, wasn't he? As were we.
Yeah, I mean, there was so many elements to that goal. I think he was desperate to score against Sheffield United, wasn't he? Because of the shit he'd had from them, and I think the fact that he'd been. I certainly don't think he was at fault, but obviously he'd contributed by getting that flick on instead of clearing it away the header for their third goal. So at that point, he'd had a hand in us going 3-1 down, so he would have been absolutely desperate. That goal for me, that our fourth goal, that was our best goal of the lot.
Absolutely.
Was, yes, there was an element of luck in our defensive third where obviously Sheaf, I think it was Sheaf. Makes a tackle and gets a little bit of fortune because it was like a ricochet off their defender, and like you said, it quite fortuitously bounced to Broadhead. But you're right, you can't stand off him. You can't.
You watch. There are 4 players around him, and they're all backing away. And I'm just thinking, one of you needs to close him down, because if you don't, he's going to punish you.
I mean, he's very, don't clip this up as me saying that he's messy, but he's very Messi-esque when he's running with the ball like that, where very low center of gravity, looks like the ball's glued to his feet, and he's not necessarily lightning quick, but he's fast enough carrying the ball, and defenders are scared to death to put tackling on him. For me, the biggest thing about it was the pass. it didn't necessarily look like, you're not gonna replay the pass as being, oh my god, this is past the season. But it was such a good pass because he waited and he played it exactly at the right time, at exactly the right angle, and at exactly the right weight to put it where Kiefer Moore needed it to finish it. And fair play to Kiefer Moore. We've talked about him on here. He gets a lot of shit for being a donkey.
Mm-hmm.
But he is a bloody good footballer with the ball at his feet as well. And that was a superb finish. It was a difficult strike, because although I think Broad had absolutely put it in the perfect place for him, it was a difficult finish from the angle it was. He still had to beat the keeper. Brilliant finish. I was thrilled, like you say, his reaction, his celebration was superb, and I was thrilled for him. How he managed to restrain himself from because if I'll be honest, I couldn't. You'll be right, and just for full transparency, there may have been several V signs directed at the away end area, of which I sit quite close. If I was him, I would have full on Gabby Ablong Lahore run the full length of the pitch to them and celebrated right in front of them. But he's obviously a bigger man than me.
It's quite funny because apparently Chris Wilder in his post-match conference was asked about him, and he basically said, well, if it would have been down to me, he wouldn't be playing in the Wrexham shirt, he'd be playing in the Sheffield shirt.
I think
he was very upset.
I think, to be fair, to try and put a little bit of sort of sensible balance on it, a lot of it's football banter, isn't it? If you know what fans are like.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in fairness, playing in the team that he was playing in probably didn't suit his game as much as it does playing in our team.
No.
And I think that's the key thing. I dare say there's quite a lot of Sheffield United fans, as much as they might not admit it, I dare say there's quite a lot of them that are probably still quite bitter and quite hurt by the fact that it was his mistake that gave away the goal, which basically cost them the Premier League last season. Yep. But you can't use that one error as a reason to say he shouldn't be playing for us. And in fairness, most of them who moan about him don't use that as a reason. They moan about him because they said he was a donkey and he was this and he was crap and he was that. But I just think it was maybe their playing style doesn't suit his style of game, whereas ours evidently does.
It's nice, though, isn't it, when the official club Twitter can respond to Sheffield United fans earlier saying, oh, we'll drive him over by basically just putting a picture of him running off celebrating with the caption, thanks for the lift.
That was brilliant.
Which you just go, that's chef's kiss. Well done, the media team. Another winner. Another winner. So we were 4-3 up. And we were doing okay. 81 minutes then. Thomason, moving forward, was brought down in the box for a penalty. Penalty for you, Jamie? Yes, definitely, or no?
So, again, in real time, a penalty all day long. It looked a penalty. I had to watch it back a couple of times because I was a bit unsure. Yes, I think it was. There was an element. There was a part of me that, for a time, thought he may have nicked the ball before he got Thomason. I think Thomason's been very clever with going down when he felt the contact. But look, I think it did look a penalty.
Well, Windass stepped up, put it away for a 5-3 lead. Okonkwo still had to pull off some important saves to keep the lead, including Sheffield hitting the crossbar at one point, which had my heart in my mouth because I didn't want to go to 5-4 and hang on for another number of minutes because I'm just thinking, no, I can't be taking that because if we'd have drawn it 5-all at that point, it would have been a massive letdown. But we didn't. We kept the 5-3 lead, which was great. Wrexham finished the week 13th in Championship, 5 points off the playoffs, 9 points off the relegation zone. Best team of the 3 promoted League One sides at the end of the year, noted. And, of course, the best side in Wales, also noted. 2 stats for you here, Jamie, which I picked up. Wrexham's 5-3 win is the highest scoring Boxing Day match in the second tier since Hull City and Sheffield Wednesday played out a 4-4 draw, which was in, wait for it, 1970. So that shows a level of excitement there. And at Dan Wrexham posted on Twitter, which I thought was a brilliant stat. So 6 years ago, on Boxing Day, Wrexham were 21st in the National League. Sheffield United was 6th in the Premier League. I think that just about says it all about football and how weird it is. And then we managed to beat them 5-3 6 years later. The big question, Jamie, and I'll tell you what, I'll give you a chance. You wanted to talk about Thomason because we were concerned in playing out of position. And he had a hand in 4 of the 5 goals.
Yeah, I think there were 2 kind of elements I wanted to talk about. Thomason was one. The other one was the front 3. So I'll do that first. So, like we were saying, we were talking about the team. You know, we've the majority of the fan base have all been saying we would love to see Broadhead and Windass in the same team, and we finally got to see it. And you know, look, are they going to be that good every time? Probably not. It's not. You know, there are going to be. It's not going to happen all the time, but that's shown you what is possible. Broadhead and Windass looked completely different players in this game. Completely different players because they were playing in positions that are their best positions. The fact that we were getting the ball to Windass's feet was, again, night and day difference and meant he could have a much bigger influence on the game. The fact that he had Broadhead supporting him, you know, as a sort of 2 number 10s off Kiefer Moore meant that Kiefer Moore always had support with him, which was made a massive difference. I thought Windass was much more like the Josh Windass that I know is possible at this level. What I've seen in the past from him, and that's come about, I think, because we're asking him to play where he's best suited. Same for Broadhead. You know, we've been talking for weeks about we know what Broadhead's capable of. It's been a very frustrating start to his Wrexham career. I think his body language at times, you know, God forbid that I comment on the look of his body language and stuff, but I think his body language at times hasn't looked great. But what we've said all along is he's being asked to play a position that is not his position.
Well, Friday showed that if you play him in the position that he is comfortable with, look at the difference in the player. Now, again, we can only go by what we see. We're not trying to read people's minds or anything like that. We can only go by what we look at on the pitch. You look at Swansea's Friday game and the same players, and then you look at Sheffield's Friday game, the same players, and you can see the massive difference between the two in an outlook point of view and a play point of view when they're playing in positions in ways that they are comfortable with. That's all we're saying. Well, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, the
big thing with Broadhead is he offers you the best from an offensive point of view. He's not a defensive player. He never has been. He never will be. So the important thing is if you are going to play him in his preferred position, which is where he was playing, you know, in you call it what you want, the left of a front 3 or as a 1 of 2 number 10s behind a striker, whatever you want to call it, that was his best position, playing on the left hand side in an offensive offensive position. But when you do what Parky did and have the 2 forward, you know, players supporting the striker, you have to have the legs behind it. And you know, Sheaf was brilliant. He you know, I think a few players had their best game in a Wrexham shirt. I think Broadhead by a mile was his best game in a Wrexham shirt. I'd argue it was Windass's best game in a Wrexham shirt. I thought it was Sheaf's best game in a Wrexham shirt. But between Matty James and Sheaf playing in that sort of defensive holding midfield area, and the important bit is the wing backs. The wing backs and the engines of the wing backs getting up and down, up and down, up and down, because, you know, ultimately those 2 forward offensive players you've got playing off the striker, they're not going to track back very much, and that's not their game. So you have to have the bodies behind them that are going to do that, and we had that. And then that kind of brings me on to Thomason. I mean, I put a post on Twitter saying, you know, rumour has it he's the bastard love child of Roberto Carlos. I mean, first 15 minutes, shaky, but you could understand that. You know, like you said, I think he has played there before, but at youth level, it's certainly not a position he's played much or at all in his professional career. Certainly not what we brought him in for. But I tell you what, you know, I liken I'll liken it a little bit to maybe to like Tom O'Connor a couple of seasons ago. You know, we brought Tom O'Connor in as a defensive midfielder, and he ended up being, certainly for a season, an outstanding left-sided centre back.
Yep.
And you wonder whether this has inadvertently given Parky a massive bonus by, and we've got to be careful because it's one game.
Absolutely, yeah. No,
One game.
can't, you know, and you have to ask the question, which we'll ask later. You know, did he spend all his energy in this game, which means that he's not going to be able to play at the level for the next few games?
He absolutely gave everything in this game.
I mean, you look at his heat map from Friday; it's red hot on that wing, and nowhere else.
We could see it at the end of the game, because obviously he was on our side of the pitch, and we could see right at the end he was blowing out of his arse, and that's not a criticism. I'm not surprised he was.
No.
He was blowing out of his arse because he put so much into the game, and that's the only challenge is, you know, doing it consistently. But I think after that first 10 or 15 minutes where there was, you know, a little bit shaky, and I'm not blaming him for, like, you know, I was saying before about the cross for the first goal. Yes, it was on that side. I don't think all the blame is with him. There were other players around. But I think if you look at certainly the second half performance, he was unbelievable. He was unbelievable. I mean, he's got more pace than I'd ever given him credit for. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's lightning quick, but he's not slow either. I mean, he had more than enough pace to get in behind Sheffield United more than once during that game. His quality with his left foot is unbelievable. I mean, we talked about before about his delivery from set pieces, but
superb.
But even, you know, running crosses. I mean, what did he end up with? Was it 2 assists? 3 assists?
Three, I think.
Yeah.
I think he had 3 assists.
But you know, even the little move for, you know, obviously he wins the penalty. The little move we were talking about, which we didn't really talk about, which was for Longman's goal, was a brilliant bit of football in that, you know, little triangle of football. And you look at him and you think, hang on, this isn't his position. It's not natural to him. But the run he made beyond Broadhead was absolutely sublime. You know, again, to be dynamic enough to make that forward run, to time the run perfectly so he wasn't offside, and then to flick the ball in like he did for Longman to get on the end of it. He was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. Man of the match by a country mile, even though we had some brilliant performances in our team.
Well, two goals from Kiefer Moore.
Yeah, you know, he was man of the match by a mile.
I mean, I thought I know you're saying by a mile. I thought Broadhead was close. I think because of the work that Broadhead did, the pass, the everything else. I thought for me he was close because he was a threat from minute 1 to minute 90. A massive guy in him.
I wouldn't necessarily argue against that. I would say there was quite a big difference between Thomason and anybody else. But the best compliment I can pay Broadhead is what I said a minute ago, which is, for me, it was his best performance in a Wrexham shirt by a country mile. And like I say, it just goes to show, doesn't it? It just goes to show, playing him in his right position, what he's capable of. The other thing as well, which I think is really important to call out, and just to be fair, is Arthur's save.
Yes.
You know, after the kind of not criticism. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he did get criticism. I didn't really see anything online directly criticising him, other than just kind of what was he doing. But that save he made was not only important because of the time that he made the save. It was an unbelievable save. I mean, I had to find it. I had to basically.
It wasn't in the highlights, I don't think, was it? It wasn't even in the highlights.
No, I had to basically go to the full match replay and find it because I wanted to watch it again. I couldn't believe it didn't make the highlights. As you know, unbelievable save, and like you said, they hit the bar. So we did have a little bit of luck as well. You know, I think overall from the game, I think Parky will be disappointed in some ways because defensively, we were poor at times, and conceding 3 goals tells you that. But overall, you cannot be disappointed with that performance. You certainly can't be disappointed with the result. And like I said at the beginning, from my point of view, it was so refreshing to come away from the game, regardless of the result. And it's easy for me to say this because we won, but regardless of the result, it was so refreshing and such a nice feeling to come away from the ground thinking, bloody hell, that was an amazing game of football to watch from both teams. You know, credit to Sheffield United. At times, they played some brilliant stuff. It was a thoroughly enjoyable game of football. But the most important thing is, from our point of view, is the way we played was brilliant to watch.
I mean, it was lovely. Let's be honest, it was lovely revenge, because when we played in the FA Cup 2 years ago, it was 3-3 at the Kairos, and then we went there and they beat us 3-1, and then they knocked us out of the League Cup, if you remember, last season, fairly convincingly at Bramall Lane. So it was nice to stand up to them toe to toe and go, well, you know, considering we're supposed to be the crappiest league in the whole universe.
But I think you know, for me, I'd completely detached what had happened previously, you know, in the FA Cup and in the League Cup. I completely detached that, really, because it's completely different. Yes, it's still Wrexham against Sheffield United, but it's completely different from our perspective. You know, we've got a completely different team.
Well, yeah,
and I think the bottom line is, this is why myself, and I know lots of other fans have been in the same boat. This is why, as much as it's not about being negative for negative's sake, this is why I am a little bit critical when we play like we did against Swansea, because we have assembled a really good Championship level squad. You know, this is not our League One team with a couple of players added to it. We have got a very good Championship squad of players, and whilst I'm not expecting us to get promotion or anything like that, there's a certain level you want to see from your team. And I think this is the only downside to the Sheffield United performance is it's set a bar now, hasn't it? You know, this set a bar similar to Coventry.
Yes,
Of
right.
what we can do, you know, and there'll be a lot of pressure on Parky now. You know, I know we're going to talk about Preston in a minute. There'll be a lot of pressure on Parky. We'll talk about that
later. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean.
You know.
Well, it's been a breathless 2025-26 season so far, and so it's a good moment to take a pause and look back at the highlights so far for Wrexham and Cymru men and women, and to look forward to what we think is to come. I've asked Jamie for his highlights amongst Cymru men, women, and Wrexham men and women. Looking first at Cymru Women, after a disappointing Women's Euros 2025 Championship in Switzerland in the summer, Cymru Women needed a bit of a reset. Cymru Women had 2 friendlies at the start of autumn, a 2-1 loss to Australia, where we said a fond goodbye to the queen of Welsh football, Jess Fishlock, and then a very disappointing 5-2 loss to Poland, where Rhian Wilkinson put out a very young side. Cymru Women had 2 more friendlies then in December. In Spain, with a much better performances, a 1-1 draw against the Republic of Korea, and then a fantastic 3-2 win over Switzerland to end the long run of no wins in 2025. Next year, Cymru Women are in the Nations League B1 group for qualification to the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup. They've been drawn versus the Czech Republic, Albania and Montenegro, with the group winners being promoted to League A and advancing to the World Cup playoffs. And their first game in this qualification is away to Czechia on the 3rd of March. So, Jamie, Cymru Women, what was your highlight for the kind of August to December time for you?
To be honest with you, I know I'm going to cheat a little bit with this, because I know we're talking about August to December, sort of the first half of the season. But I think overall, it's been a disappointing time generally. But I'm going to say that my kind of highlight, more so from the year, was qualifying for the Euros. Although, like you said a minute ago in your summary there, it was a bit of a disaster, and it wasn't great from the point of view that we didn't really paint ourselves in glory. I think the significance of qualifying for that in the first place really needs to be highlighted as such a highlight. and who knows? Who knows what the future will hold? I think we talked about it before, and obviously I know this is more an area where Daz excels knowledge than me. But I think we are in a bit of a transitional period at the minute. Obviously, those last couple of fixtures were through us a little bit, because I think we all thought we were going to see defeats, and they've got 2 very good results, so which is great. But I think we are in a bit of a transitional period at the minute, so it will be fascinating to see what happens in the sort of second half of the season, as it were. Obviously, going now into back into Nations League B is probably more our level where we probably should be sitting. But yeah, I know it's a little bit of a cheat answer, but for me, just because I think it shouldn't be overlooked, I think qualifying for that tournament.
I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, for such a long time we'd been the almost team where we'd almost qualified for a major finals, and that time where we got knocked out by Switzerland at the last gasp, got knocked out by Northern Ireland at the last gasp. There were times where these things had happened, and we're thinking, are we ever going to get there? So you're right. The fact that we got there was a major plus point. I think really, we need to build on that now. But, we've done that now. It's done. It's off the board. We don't have to worry about it. As Coleman said, for the men, it's not about doing it once. It's doing it repeatedly, time after time after time, building up that level. I think that's going to be the key where Cymru Women are concerned. Wrexham Women, of course, had a bit of a better time. New dawn as Jenny Sugarman took over from Steve Dale as manager and came in with a number of players, including Jodie Bartle, Maz Mahmood, Katie Barker, and Faye Knox. Started the season with a 5-2 win away at Britain Ferry, coming from 2-0 down. They continued with some key results in the league, including beating Swansea home and away and drawing 1-1 at home to Cardiff City, with their only loss in the league being away at TNS. Add to that a 9-0 win versus Llandudno in the Adran Trophy and an 11-0 win versus NFA Women in the Bute Energy Trophy. Wrexham Women have they've really showed their mettle, fighting hard when required to, both against Cardiff City and Aberystwyth Town in 2 consecutive games, putting them currently top of the Adran Premier by 5 points over Cardiff City. Looking forward, Wrexham Women's first game back on the 4th of January is that crunch game versus Cardiff City, plus they are still in the semi-final of the Adran Trophy versus Britain Ferry and the quarter-final of the Bute Energy Cup. Jamie, where Wrexham Women are concerned, what's kind of been your highlight this season?
The 11-0 win against NFA.
Okay. Why is that?
Because if anyone predicted that scoreline, they must have been an absolute genius god. No, I'm totally joking. Again, rather than like a particular game or anything like that. Again, maybe a little bit of a cheat answer, but I'm sure you'll understand where I'm coming from when I say this. For me, the highlight of the season so far was that 2-week period where there was a significant move forward again with the women's team. Jenny Sugarman was brought in. We signed Barker, Mahmood, Bartle, and the caliber of those signings was really, really crucial, because again, I know we spoke about it on here. About the fact that if we felt, again, God forbid that you should look at something and make an opinion without knowing the facts. But obviously at the time we were. It looked to us, or to everybody from the outside in, it looked a little bit like the women's side of things was taking a little bit of a back seat. The manager had left, a lot of the players had left, the Rock was up in terminal, we didn't know what was going on. We were edging close to the start of the season and we didn't have a clue what was going on. And then obviously Jenny Sugarman gets appointed and those players get brought in, and then obviously since then there's been some other really high profile key appointments on the women's side specifically. Obviously,
getting Mark in as head of women's and girls football, exactly. I think, is an absolute masterstroke. It really is.
Obviously,
it really is.
The Rock has been sorted out now, and after a bit of time is now a proper base and home for the women's team.
And it's lovely. Yeah. Not that you'd know because you've not been, but it is very, very nice. It's a real, becoming a real home for the Wrexham Women, which is great, and it's getting the community aspect back. Kevin Druids are coming back and everything. So it's great.
I'm not allowed in Kevin Mauer anyway. I'll get chased away with pitchforks. No, it's for me. Like I say again, I hope you can accept it as an answer.
Yeah,
But for me, it's that
fine.
sort of two week period where it felt to me like as if, oh shit, we are actually, this has not been put on the back burner. That they are taking this, as serious as they always have since since Rob and Ryan took over. They're taking this as serious now, and what's transpired since has been nothing short of brilliant, isn't it? To be sat top of the league. What are they in quarters of 2 cup competitions?
Semi of the
Semi and
Adran
quarter.
Trophy, quarter for the Butte Energy. I mean, the big question, Jamie, are we going to get the treble like Cardiff did 2 seasons ago? Are we going to win the league? Are we going to win any silverware? Honestly, what do you see? What do you see ahead of you?
At this point of the season, with where we're at and with what we've seen so far, if they finish the season without some kind of trophy, I would be flabbergasted. I'm not gonna say treble. Is it possible? Absolutely. There's no. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if we get to the end of the season and they've done it. They won a treble, done a double, whatever. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But that's a big ask at any level. To win 2 or even 3 competitions in a season. Yes, it's been done. It's not unique, but it's a very difficult thing to do. And you've got to give some respect to certainly. Well, you've got to give respect to all teams, but certainly Swansea and Cardiff. They are still very good sides, aren't they? As far as the league,
is it league first for you?
Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Particularly for the women, because unfortunately, because of the structure of the league and the fact there's so few teams in it. Again, without sounding really disrespectful, all that matters is winning it. Any other position really doesn't matter. I think it's in our hands, isn't it? At the end of the day, at this moment in time, it's in our hands. So
the Adran Trophy, we're at home against Britain Ferry. That's a winnable tie. So it means we'd be in the cup final. At that point, it's a cup final, so anything can happen at that point.
It is. I just think there's so much emphasis on this next game, the Cardiff game. There's so much on that. That feels, not to sound all Roy of the Rovers, but that feels like a real 6-pointer. I think from our point of view, it's not the be all and end all if we lost it. I think it's massive if Cardiff lose it, and so it kind of feels to us like a little bit of a free hit, because I think mathematically we could afford to lose it, and it wouldn't mean then that we're screwed. But I think if we win it, I think it not only mathematically does it have a huge impact, but I think psychologically it'd have such a big effect.
Well, we'd be 8 points in the lead, even with Cardiff's game in hand. They win the game in hand, we'd still be 5 points in the lead. And then we've got Barry and we've got Britain Ferry again at home.
Yeah.
To go into the phase 2, then potentially be 5 points ahead. That's a big milestone. Because yes, I know we have to play Cardiff twice again, and we'll probably have to play Swansea twice again. But that's the way. If you want to be champion, and the pressure is as much on them because they won't want to lose either. But yeah, it's massively exciting and great for the league, because I was sick to death of Cardiff winning everything. It was boring as crap. So anything that makes it a more of a excitement, and if Wrexham win it, which I still think they will. I still am convinced they're going to win it. I think they've got the guts and the bite to do that. It's great. It's absolutely what they deserve, because they've worked bloody hard. And I'm not just talking about this season. Look at the end of last season, whenever they were absolutely in the dirt, and they picked up just at the right time to get themselves into the top half of phase 2, and they fought like Billy-O.
Tell you one thing I was going to ask you very quickly about the women's side is there how does the transfer side of things work? Are there transfer windows?
Yes, there are. Yes, same as the men. Yeah, although it's a little bit more. Yes, but it's not from the FAW side. It's from the FA of England side. So if you want to get people from FA of England, you've got to do it the same. So yes, January window is open for potentially for bringing in extra players. And we've not even thought about that. That could be incredible, because if we start bringing in some seriously good players from over the border as well, they'll start calling us TNS men if we're not careful. Bit of an joke.
That's the thing, isn't it? If you look at the season so far, from the point of view of the men's side and how Rob and Ryan and the club have approached it, and then you look at where the women have and where they're at, you wonder to yourself, would it be a huge surprise if we brought in another player or two on a full-time basis? I don't know. We'll see.
I'll take it. Cymru men under Craig Bellamy were in the middle of a World Cup qualifying campaign as we started the season, needing to finish top of Group J to get direct qualification to the World Cup in 2026. They beat Kazakhstan 1-0 in September before losing a friendly to Canada 1-0. October saw a difficult friendly versus England at Wembley, where they lost 3-0 before hosting Belgium in a qualification, starting the game well but fading off and lost 4-2. And they're pretty much putting them out of the chance to qualify at the top of the division. November saw them beat Liechtenstein away 1-0 before a thumping of North Macedonia 7-1 at home to guarantee that second place in the group and get a chance in the qualification playoffs. If in qualification, they face Bosnia and Herzegovina at home in March. They win that and they face either Italy or Northern Ireland 4 days later, again at home to qualify for the World Cup should they win that. If they get through to the World Cup, they'll be in the same group as Canada, Switzerland and Qatar at the group stage of the 2026 World Cup. Jamie Daz has sent me a message saying that game against North Macedonia was his highlight for the season, because he basically said that's where Bellamy ball really kicked in, which I thought was a great comment by Daz. And it was, I was there, and it was just suddenly everything fell beautifully into place. For me, it was kind of a couple of games too late, because we needed. The annoying thing about it is when you saw the game at the end, the table at the end, if we could have held on to the draw in Belgium, where the Ginger Ponce got in at the back post and won in like the 92nd, 93rd minute or whatever to win the game, if we'd have held on, we'd have qualified directly, because we would have been above Belgium. That's how close Cymru were to avoiding this lottery of the playoffs. What was your highlight for the Cymru men? Yeah,
it has to be that victory against North Macedonia, doesn't it? It can't be anything else. I think the only other thing that I would kind of call out as a maybe has a shout of being like the highlight randomly is the second half performance against Belgium away. But you can't pick that overall because of how poor the first half was. It was to go
3-0 down. Which was appalling.
But that second half performance away from home was unbelievable, and like you say, so disappointing that we came away from that game with nothing in the end. But that North Macedonia game at home, you can't pick anything else. I mean, it was just everything went right, didn't it? I mean, Harry Wilson just on another level.
Get him in a Wrexham shirt.
Just on another level, but everything went right, didn't it?
Get him in one of these.
Everything went right, and the important thing there is that it was a massive result in a very important game. Let's not forget that. But let's also remember the opposition. We were very fearful of them before we played them, because they were the only team to take points off Belgium twice.
Yep.
We struggled when we played the first game against them, and we made on that night we made them look like San Marino.
Absolutely.
They were terrible. Whilst a 7-1 scoreline is very rare and it's not something you're going to see a lot of, that style of play, I think we'd all agree, is something we'd prefer to see more of than maybe what we'd seen in maybe the 4 or 5 games before that, because we've had a very roller coaster time with Bellamy, haven't we? When he first came in,
the England friendly was appalling.
Oh,
the Canada game wasn't much better.
No,
because they only scored from a set piece. Apart from that, it was two teams who were basically just wobbling about the field.
Yeah.
And the other two teams where we won, you're kind of going, well, we should be beating them because they're way below us in the ranking. So we should be, even though they're away. I mean, the big question, Jamie, is obviously we've got these playoffs coming up. Bosnia-Herzegovina. We're at home. So the CCS is going to be bouncing. What do you think?
I overall, I'm quite confident. I think we can do it. You know, in both games, even if we're playing Italy.
And Italy. And
Yeah,
Italy. So you think
yeah.
we're going to beat Italy at the CCS?
But for two reasons. One, because of what you've just said, we'd be at home. So it'd be at the CCS again, which, as we know and as we've talked about before, is very much one of those scenarios where it can make a huge difference. And we know how you know more than I do how big that atmosphere can be and how important it can be. And we know it'll be absolutely there for both of those games. That's one reason. The other reason as well is the fact that, okay, you look at it on paper and you think, oh, it's Italy. Wow, Italy, powerhouse of world football. But at the moment, they are shit.
They're rubbish.
Well,
they're quite hot and cold, to be fair. I mean, they're not out and out rubbish, but they're nowhere near the level they used to be.
But I think, given that both of those fixtures for us would be at home, that for me is the slight little advantage that we'd have. And I'm fairly confident. However, the only one little niggle I have against it is what Wales team turns up, because that's the only worry. Is that at the start of Bellamy's reign, we saw brilliant football, and it was such a breath of fresh air after Page took over, and then it seemed to drop and become a bit of a nothing. And we saw some, like you said, England, Canada in particular, terrible performances, and then obviously we got the North Macedonia one. If they turn up and it's handbrake off and they attack and they go for it on a one-off game, I'd fancy us against anyone. So I'm still quite confident that we can qualify.
Well, let's say we win, but excuse me, with his knees. What next? So let's say we win both these games. We get to the World Cup. We're in the group of Switzerland, Canada, and Qatar. Sorry, Canada, Switzerland, Qatar in that order. We should get out of that group because it's the three. It's a three in that group, isn't it? Because the top two go automatically, and the third goes via some weird. They go in through as well via a playoffy thing. It's all very convoluted. So the three out of a group of four. Surely we can get out of the group through that.
You would like to think so. I mean, I think obviously Canada we've already played recently, so we know kind of what they're about. I think we could play a lot better than we did against them. But still, they were a decent. They were an alright side. Switzerland, we know, are a decent international side, and you'd expect us to beat Qatar. So yeah.
The problem is, I've got things of the last. I've got flashbacks of the last World Cup. And we played USA, and I'm thinking we beat USA, and we couldn't beat. We drew with them. That's
the biggest thing for me. That's the biggest thing for me.
We took on Iran, and I honestly thought we would walk Iran, and we lost.
The biggest thing for me is if we're able to qualify, and as much as I'm saying I am confident, it's still an if because we've got 2 games we've got to win, 2 difficult games we've got to win. But if we did get there, that for me is the biggest thing, is that we just represent ourselves better than we did in the last World Cup.
Yeah.
Because, it's fine getting to tournaments, and there should be, you should level praise and compliments to the squad and to the staff for qualifying for tournaments. But when you're there, you want to give a good account of yourselves. And this is not me saying that I expect the Euros where we got to the semi-final. That was a one-off. That was a one-off. And that was a once in a lifetime. We're
never
fortunate,
happening again in my lifetime.
We're fortunate enough that we witnessed it, and it'll forever live with us.
And we had to wait. We had to wait from 1958 to get anywhere near something like that. So there's been generations of company fans who have never seen anything like we saw in 2016. So,
the reality is that as a nation, we're just not big enough to, and we haven't got that enough quality or as deep a level of quality to be able to sustain an international team to do that in every championship. So I'm not expecting them levels, but it needs to be better than what we saw in the last World Cup, because you just want your national team to again, similar to like when we talk about Wrexham playing, certainly in these derbies, local derbies, Welsh derbies, whatever you want to call it. You just want to see a certain level of performance, and if ultimately you lose the game because you've lost to a better team or better players, or you've been unfortunate because you've had a bit of bad luck, so be it. But if you've at least can walk off saying, do you know what, we played well, we did what we as much as we could. That's all you want. That's all you want.
Bellamy, obviously, there was some talk, wasn't there, when the Celtic manager's job came up? Lots of talk about him potentially being poached to become Celtic manager. I mean, is there a danger that if Bellamy does get successful, get us to a World Cup, that we could lose him?
Yeah, possibly. I think that's.
I mean, not necessarily to Celtic.
No,
not necessarily Celtic, but there are a number of high-profile teams who he's played for in the past, who kind of would go, well, yeah, we'll take a punt on him.
I mean, the thing you've got to ask yourself is getting us qualified for a World Cup. Is that a big enough draw that a club would want to come along and say, oh, we want to take him because of that? There should be a lot more to it.
I could see some lower championship teams going for him. I
think it depends on
Oxford United
him.
is a prime example. Oxford United just sacked Guy Rowett. Are you telling me that if they had the chance, they wouldn't bring Craig Bellamy in?
Yeah, quite possibly. It depends on his aspirations, doesn't it? I mean, I think he's. I don't think he wants to be an international manager long term.
No,
I absolutely think
too easy.
Yeah, I absolutely think he wants to be he'll want to be a club manager, but this won't do his experience any harm. I don't envisage him being Wales manager for 10 years or anything like that. If we're successful in qualifying for the World Cup, he'll see that out, I'm sure, and then I don't know. Let's see how that goes. I suppose it's been difficult, really, because I suppose if you were a club that had considered him or considered approaching him, I think the first phase of his managing Wales, you'd have been quite impressed, and you'd have been quite, he's had a huge impact there. But then there was that big lull. And then obviously it's kind of going upward again now.
But he has been assistant manager with Vincent Kompany.
Yeah,
and Vincent Kompany is a superb manager.
Yeah.
So to be able to be number two with that, I think he's a great manager.
I'm not saying he's a bad manager, but you've got to look at his CV. He did well in Belgium with, I think it was with. Was it Antwerp or Anderlecht? I can't remember. He did all right in Belgium. He did all right with Burnley to a point, and then it all went tits up to Burnley. And then he's gone. To, he's very lucky to get the Bayern Munich job. To be honest with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm absolutely. I'm not qualified to criticise Vincent Kompany or Bayern Munich or the Bundesliga, but in fairness, it's got to be one of the easiest managerial jobs in club football. Bayern Munich. When you've got that level of quality available to you.
Let's hope we don't have any German people looking at our videos, because I think unhinged contempt. I think is maybe that. Because apparently the Bundesliga is a piece of piss, according to Jamie. That's what will get clipped up.
Well, to be fair, again, and shoot me down for being unhinged. I'm not. Again, I'm only basing that from with very little knowledge, to be honest with you. It's not a league I watch a lot of. I watch some of the German teams play in like the Champions League, whatever. But Bundesliga games are generally not games that I watch. But it's not a coincidence that Bayern Munich are pretty much there or thereabouts from a championship perspective every year. In other words, what I'm getting at is he's gone to a club where he's got every resource under the sun in what I think is probably, as a whole league, is not a superior league. When he was at Burnley, he struggled in the latter parts of his time there. You'd have to look at that and you'd have to say, is managing, say, a championship club or whatever, is that a bigger test than managing in the Bundesliga? I don't know. That's a rhetorical question.
When you're in a hole, stop digging.
Take Frank Lampard. There's another example. You know, he
Yes.
struggled at Premier League level. He struggled,
Yes, true.
but he's excelling now.
He did
You
well
know,
at Derby, then struggled at
yeah,
Chelsea, and then he's
yeah,
back now with Coventry. He's doing really well.
yeah.
So, yeah, maybe like you say, managers have a level, don't they? They have a level, and it's difficult to go between the two. I'll grant you that one. That's fair enough. Wrexham men. Finally, it's been a topsy turvy start to our first time in the Championship for nearly 50 years. Wrexham have had some impressive wins in this league. 2-0 away at Millwall, 3-2 away at Norwich City, 3-2 at home to leaders Coventry City, 2-0 at home to Bristol City, and obviously that Boxing Day 5-3 win versus Sheffield United. But they've also had a lot of draws, like the really disappointing 2-2 draw at home to Sheffield Wednesday, and some losses like 1-0 away at Stoke City, 2-0 away at Hull City, 2-1 away at Swansea. Wrexham were knocked out of the League Cup last 16 by Cardiff City and have struggled at times to put enough chances on goal. However, they are firmly mid-table and have become a very, very difficult team to beat. Players-wise, we've been stuck with some significant injuries. Danny Ward, Lewis Brunt, remember him? Libby Kikache, Issa Kabore, Lewis O'Brien, Ollie Rathbone, Harry Ashfield, Elliot Lee and Ryan Hardy are all currently on the treatment table, with some players having to play out of position to fill the gaps. Looking forward to next year, we obviously play all 23 teams of the league for a second time. Now we've played everybody once. And we have a mouth-watering FA Cup round 3 game at home to Nottingham Forest coming up early in January. Jamie, a lot of highlights, I would imagine, for Wrexham men. What's been your premium highlight for this season so far?
I think it would be very easy to say that the highlight is just being in the Championship. You know, that is a highlight. And I think, you know, for all the shit that I've had over the last few months about anything negative I might have said, I've always remained defiant in the fact that the underlying thought I have is I am very, very happy to be where we're at. If we finish one place above relegation, I would be over the moon with that.
Yep.
I'm only ever critical because I think we're capable of more. That's it. But I think it would be quite easy to say just being in the Championship was the highlight. But I think, I maybe, you know, maybe it's a cop out, but I'm going to say that Sheffield United game on Boxing Day. I know it's the most recent game, but for me, I'm going to say that's the highlight purely because, you know, everything we talked about that game. But the reason why that was the highlight for me was because, and like I said when we reviewed the game, credit to Parky for having the, you know, for not being stubborn and saying I'm going to try something different, you know, was one thing. But that has to be the highlight for me personally, purely on the basis that, as I said, I came away from that game absolutely buzzing, not because we'd won, but because I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed watching us play, which is the first time I felt like that for a long time.
Very similar to you. I wrote three things down before the season started. My 3 goals, okay, that I wanted to see Wrexham men do. Number 3 was not get relegated. That was 3rd. 2nd was finish higher than 14th, because, you know, 14th is the highest we've ever finished. So that was my 2nd. And my 1st one was to beat any Welsh side we come up against. So we're not doing particularly well for number 1, but number 2 and number 3 are looking hopeful. I mean, for me, my highlight, and it might sound a bit silly, but my highlight was the first game of the season against Southampton. Even though we lost, we came out and everybody was kind of going, how are Wrexham going to cope? You know, they've come up through the leagues, but they're not really ready, and it's all been very quick and it's quite scary. And we took it to Southampton, a team who had been in the Premiership 4 months before. And we took it to them and we nearly beat them, you know, and it was an exciting day out. All the Wrexham fans were up for it. It was a massive party time. It was, you know, you're talking about enjoyable. That, for me, was a thoroughly enjoyable game to watch, even though we lost. And it backs it up the thing of it's not about winning. It's not about winning. It is about being in the game.
That's exactly it, you see, is that even though with that game, we lost the game, but we came away from it. The chatter online afterwards, we spoke about it on here. All the other pods said the same thing. Nobody had an issue with the fact we lost. Yes, disappointed. Of course you were, because it's always disappointing when your team loses. Frustrating to have lost in the manner we did, lose, you know, conceding 2 goals quite late on. Yeah, very disappointing. I not that I can remember. I don't remember anybody being, critical around that game.
No.
Everyone was buzzing because we were in the Championship, and most importantly, we came away from that game. We'd given it everything. We'd had a bloody good go. We'd put on a good representation of ourselves, and we very nearly come away from it with something. And exactly like you just said there, and this has always been for me the thing. Whenever we talk about anything negative, it's always with the underlying message of I've never got an issue with losing. Never ever got an issue with losing. I've never got an issue with people making mistakes. It happens. It's just when you see a collective poor display, and we've seen it quite frequently. And the ones that really hurt are like the ones you've mentioned there, like the Cardiff one, the Swansea one, and even going back previously when we played Newport and Tranmere and Shrewsbury in recent seasons. Those were all local close games, and we didn't turn up in any of them, and they hurt more than any.
We've not been battered, which I think is good. I think the worst one is probably 3-1 by QPR at home. That was probably the worst, or 2-0 at Hull, away at Hull. But we've not been hammered 4-0 or a 5-0, which some people were expecting. You listen to the likes of the Second Tier podcast, who I wouldn't trust to read me the weather if I looked outside the window. But they were very much like, oh, Wrexham are going to find their level and they're going to get trampled on. They were saying.
I think you've got to, I think you've got to give some credit to, to Parky and the players for that. It's likely to happen, isn't it? You are probably going to get a game where you do just one of those days where you for whatever reason, everything goes against you, and you're going to have a 4 or 5 or whatever. I don't know. It might not happen, which would be great. I think as much as you're right about the fact we haven't been hammered, I think you probably do have to asterisk that with the fact that although we might not have been hammered on from a scoreline perspective, there have been some games where we've played very, very badly.
Oh yeah. Ipswich away, we pretty much is part of the bus. So
yeah.
Totally get that. I'm looking forward to next year. What are you expecting? Honestly, what are you expecting?
At this stage, so obviously it's always difficult, isn't it? Because we've got January transfer window looming, and do I expect us to do some business? Probably, but at most 1 or 2, if that. It's hard to know because obviously we don't know what conversations are happening internally. I get the feeling that that Parky holds a very I think his opinion or what he wants is very highly supported by certainly Rob and Ryan. So I dare say if he goes to them and says, I want these 3 players, they would probably sanction it. I don't know. It's hard to say. What am I expecting? At this stage, mid-table. I think if we can finish 10th, comfortably in the top half, that would be for me
it's a major achievement. Yeah,
it would be a major achievement. All I hope for in the second half of the season is that we see more performances like Sheffield United and less performances like Swansea. We're not going to score 5 goals every game. We're not going to win every game. We're going to have games where it doesn't work and we play badly or whatever. But as long as the majority is we've gone out there and we've given everything, but we've lost that game because the referee made a shit decision, or we've lost that game because we've been outdone by a Patrick Bamford goal or something like that. That's all you want. And I think the level that we're at the moment, I think if we can, I think, 10th, 11th, 12th, somewhere around there, I think we'd be very happy with that.
Sifting through the empty sweet wrappers, looking for something tasty to fill the emptiness of the post-Christmas period? You must be looking for the chip shop. Jamie has wrestled himself away from the dartboard of what he was just talking on, losing to his wife at the best of 3. Yeah, get those arrows in. Let's look at this week's predictions, or last week's predictions. And Jamie and I are very, very happy because Swansea City versus Wrexham, Jamie scored a bullseye. He's predicting that Swansea would win 2-1. And then Wrexham Women versus Penybont, 4-0 on the nail for me, which means that I also got a bullseye. In fact, Jamie had a great week because he scored 2 points for the bullseye at Swansea City and predicted that Wrexham Women would beat Penybont and Wrexham would beat Sheffield United, which means he gets 4 points. Daz had a bit of a stinker because he predicted 2-1, 2 draws and got those both wrong, and then the Wrexham Women, so he only got a point. And I obviously got the bullseye, which means I got 2 points and failed on the other 2. So Jamie pulls away a bit further on 35 points.
That's bullshit. I've had 6 bullseyes. That's bullshit. I should have more points than I got for having 6 bullseyes.
No, because you got 29 correct predictions, which is 29 points, and 6 extra points for your 6 bullseyes, which is 35.
No, but what I'm saying is there should be more on a bullseye.
Well, I'm sorry, there isn't. And that's the rules, so suck it.
Oh yeah, forget it.
Listen, you're 8 points ahead of Daz and 10 points ahead of me. The chances of you throwing this now are infinitesimal, because Daz was at the same. Infinitesimal, small, tiny. Like, just think of your dick. Think of your dick. Because Daz was the same last Christmas. He was something like 10 or 12 points ahead, and he romped it in the end. Only just. Well, actually, no, he didn't. Only just because you nearly pipped him. If it wasn't for the end of season ones. Yeah.
Fucking massive. Oh, sorry, I was just thinking of my dick.
Anyway, so Daz, unfortunately, is the one who kind of lost out most. I'm delighted I got the bullseye with the Wrexham Women. Thank you, Wrexham Women, for that. I was so happy with that. Anyway, first into the fryer tonight, it's Preston North End. So here we go again. We've now played all 23 championship teams once. So it's time to let's go round again and meet them all again, starting with a home game versus Preston North End. Tonight, Monday, the 29th of December, kickoff 7:45 p.m. We only met Preston
tonight. I better go.
I know, you better hurry. We're recording this the day before. We only met Preston a few weeks ago where we drew 1-1, a 4th minute Kiefer Moore special before they equalised on 81 minutes. Since then, Preston have drawn 1-1 at home to Coventry City, beat Oxford United 2-1 away, drew at home 1-1 with Norwich City, drew 0-0 away at Stoke City, and which placed them 5th in the championship with 9 wins, 10 draws, 4 losses, a goal difference of +7 and 37 points, only 6 points off automatic promotion. And the chips are done. So, Jamie, the massive question. We saw handbrake off against Sheffield United. And look what we got. Lots of goals in, lots of goals out. I can't imagine the fact that we only played that 72 hours ago, that a lot of those players are going to be able to do it again. And then we're playing again on Thursday, and then we're playing again on Sunday. So there are games thick and fast now over the next week. Something has to give. So either you change the players and keep the formation, or you revert back to the formation of 3-5-2 or 5-3-2 and defend it like Billy O. We're at home. So what do you do here? Do you go, let's go forward, handbrake off, or do you replace players and try and think, well, when we're away, we'll do a bit more of that, or do you play it safe away? There are so many connotations. What do you reckon Parky will do?
It is tough, isn't it? I
mean, Thomason, like you said, James was blowing. Thomason was blowing by the end, on Friday. Those are 2 players which you can't see them doing that again for another 90 minutes, 72 hours later. You really can't.
The problem that we've got is that because we were so good against Sheffield United, ideally you'd want to replicate that, wouldn't you? But you're absolutely right. I think, as much as I spoke in the past about the fact that I personally, I struggle sometimes to understand when you hear these players talking about an issue playing twice in a week. This is very different. Like you just said, playing Friday, Monday, Thursday, Sunday is a big ask. that being said, I think there will be a selection of players that will play in all those games, or will start at all those games.
And it's not just us. All the other teams in the Championship have the
Yeah.
same problem.
And
So it's not
that's
just us.
no, and that, to be fair, that was going to be our next point, is the fact that the one other thing you have got to remember, as much as we're saying that it's obviously a strain on us, it's not like most of the teams in the Championship haven't got massive squads. I mean, at the end of the day, every team in the Championship has only got 25 players, although technically after Thursday for the month, you can play anyone, can't you?
Yeah,
but certainly for Boxing Day and then today's game, every team in the Championship has only got 25-man squads to pick from, so it's not like as if anyone's got an advantage. Pardon me. I think what you just said is interesting about the fact that we're at home is significant, because, like you just said, I think if there was ever going to be a time where, or if there was in this situation where we've got these games in such a short space of time, I think if he's going to look at it from the point of view of that he wants to be, maybe revert back to the slightly more defensive way of playing, it's a lot more likely to be in the away games, or you would hope so. It's really difficult. I mean, my gut feeling is, barring any injuries that we don't know about, I've got a sneaky feeling he's going to start this Preston game with the same team.
I mean, he did say that Max had a knock and Kiefer had a problem with his ankle at the end. But I don't know whether they were just, minor ones or major ones. He said that in the post-match press conference.
It will be interesting. It's always interesting to see what team it drops when we see an hour and a half before, whenever it is. It's always interesting to see what team we're going to see. This will be no different. My gut feeling is, subject to anyone being unable to play through injury, I think we'll see the same starting 11. It's just a gut feeling, because I think if history's told us anything with Parky, he won't change a winning team. Now, granted, that often applies when we've maybe scraped a 1-0 or a 2-1. When we've played as well as we have, it really adds fuel to the why would you change it? But the massive caveat to that is the fact that the difference is this is not Saturday to Saturday. It was 72 hours ago. So you are asking a lot, particularly those wing backs, because, like we were saying when we were talking about the Sheffield United game, because of you sacrifice having those two forward players off the striker and the offensive bit they give to you, you sacrifice the defensive work they do. So that puts far more pressure on the wing backs and the two sitting in midfield to do the defensive work or to support the defence.
I mean, James and Sheaf played together on Friday.
Yeah.
That's one thing. J Rod's available. Ollie Rathbone's available. Obviously, we never had before. Kakache was on the bench. How much time can he put in if we need to swap him out for Thomason? Because it's possible he'll go back to having Longman and Barney back on again. But again, that's, some people might see that as a step backwards. But that's the players we have available. My
gut feeling is he'll start the game with the same team. The only change maybe I could see him making is maybe bringing in Dobson for one of the other two. The difficulty is, or the main thing is, like this, is probably Thomason, because he's the one that to me looked the most spent after that game. But this is the thing as well, isn't it? We can only sort of see it from see what we see on the pitch. They've got all the analytical stuff.
Absolutely.
To back it up, the actual science behind it.
Would you risk resting Thomason at home to have him fully available on Thursday at Blackburn away?
See, I think you'd do the opposite. I think if he's fit enough to start the game and can give you 60 minutes, I think you'd go down that route. At home, I think you'd go down that route. And this is what I'm thinking, I'm thinking subject to injuries. This is why I'm thinking he might go with the same 11. But this is where you'll see, on 60 minutes, this is where you'll probably see a raft of changes. And I can see, the likes of, again, it's difficult because you don't know how the game's going to go. It depends on how the game's going. But subject to the game going well, this is where you're probably going to see maybe Kakache coming on for Thomason, maybe J-Rod for Kiefer Moore, Dobson and Dobson in for one of the holding midfielders. Obviously, but Rathbone came on towards the end of the game at Sheffield United, and he took up one of those number 10 roles. So whether he would play in one of them, I don't know. It will be fascinating, but obviously from a performance point of view, in an ideal world, you don't want to see a huge amount of change for today's game, because we were so bloody good. But you have got to acknowledge the fact that it's a lot of football in a short space of time.
Yeah, it's a lot for any person to do. They're not mega people, are they? They're not. They have limits like we all do. So let's
Wrap those chips up to keep them warm.
No. We've done. No, we need to do the things. Time for the something and source score. First.
Oh, that's the one.
I had a mental block then. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wrexham versus Preston North End?
Again, it's trying to do these predictions for this Wrexham team this year is so difficult because it's so up and down with the way we play. Looking at the last two games, we were terrible against Swansea, but then outstanding against Sheffield United. It really puts you in a quandary. I'm going to go for a Wrexham win. I think it's going to be much tighter because if you look at Preston, they don't concede a lot of goals, but they also do seem to score more often than not.
So I think draws recently.
Yeah,
I mean, and to go away to Stoke and draw 0-0 is pretty impressive.
For a long time I was thinking 1-1, but then obviously I'm more leaning into the way we played against Sheffield United on Boxing Day. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Wrexham win, I think.
Well, Daz has predicted a 1-1 draw, and I'm predicting Wrexham 2, Preston North End 1. I agree with you. I think it's going to be tight, but I think we'll just about have enough to get us over the line. I think because we're at home. I think if we were away, I think it would be different. But I think because we're at home, I think we'll just about get the 2-1 win. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. Next into the fryer, it's Blackburn Rovers. To shake off the New Year's hangovers, and it's a trip up to Ewood Park for a 12:30 p.m. GMT kickoff on New Year's Day to take on Blackburn Rovers. Wrexham hosted Blackburn at the end of November, where Wrexham drew 1-1. Blackburn took the lead. Wrexham had a 95th minute thriller as Max Cloward scored from a broadhead assist to draw the game. Since then, Blackburn have drawn 1-1 at home to Ipswich, 1-1 at home to Oxford United, lost 2-1 away at Portsmouth, won 2-0 at home to Millwall, and drew 0-0 away at Middlesbrough, putting them 18th in the table. 7 wins, 5 draws, 10 losses, a goal difference of -4 and 26 points, 4 points from the relegation zone. And the chips are done. So then we go away 4 days later, away to Ewood Park against a Blackburn Rovers side that are not pulling up any trees. Again, you look at those last results, it's what? Draw, loss, 1 win against Millwall, which is a bit of an anomaly, and then a draw. So, they're not doing particularly well.
No, but it's difficult, isn't it? Again, it's another great example of how crazy this league is this season. You're right. You look at their last three performances: draw, win, loss. But then if you isolate that and look at those 3 games, they've lost to Portsmouth, and to be fair, Portsmouth are pretty drab against us.
They're rubbish. Yeah,
beaten Millwall, who have been very good this season, and then they've drawn away to Middlesbrough, who are high flying with Coventry. So
absolutely.
But then they're sat in 18, so they're where they are for a reason. Again, and I know we say this every week when there's more than one game in a week. It's always difficult to predict the next game.
Would you see this more Parky handbrake on than Parky handbrake off because we're away, or no different?
I think. Again, caveats. It's going to depend on what happens against Preston. It is going to have an impact. Again, it's really important that the games are so close together. That's going to factor in no matter which way you look at it. Yes, my gut feeling is I think he's more likely to go defensive in this one. My only hope from the Sheffield United game is and this is one thing. And to be fair, Matt on Racecourse Ramble made a really, really great point when he was talking about after the Swansea game, and they were reviewing that game, where he was talking about we set up a lot of the time like we're still the underdog. And that's a
Mm-hmm.
great point and a great way of looking at it, because I agree with him 100%. I think we need to shake this mentality that we're the underdog now and go into these games, whether it's home or away. Obviously, you can't go gun ho and just, handbrake off all the time. But I think we've got to go into more games, home and away, where we have a bit more confidence in our own ability. We've got, like I said before, we've got a phenomenal group of players. We've got some really good quality in our squad, and we've shown against Sheffield United that in a certain scenario, and if we can get the best out of them, the likes of Windass, the likes of Broadhead, Thomason, Moore, these are players that can cause damage at this level to any team. So whether we're home or away, I think we do need to go into games a little bit more confident at times and be a bit more aggressive rather than defensive.
Mm.
And this on paper, this Blackburn game is very much one of those that you'd say this is one really where you'd like to see us going at it a little bit more aggressively. We're 4 or 5 places above them in the league. We didn't play particularly well against them at home and only just managed to scrape a draw. Let's go and put a marker down. But you always have to come back to the time of year and the games. The fact that this will be the 3rd game in less than a week, that's a factor. So yes, I think you're right. I think you're onto something. I think this is the more likely one where he's likely to revert back to block defence, where come and beat us and try and nick a goal. That's my gut feeling.
So time for the salt vinegar and sauce score. Daz has predicted a 2-0 Wrexham win. Quite adventurous for Daz. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Blackburn Rovers versus Wrexham?
I'm going to go for a Daz special 1-1.
Excellent. And I also have predicted 1-1. I think it's going to be a draw. I think Blackburn seem to be the draw specialist. I think we'll be super safe because we'll be protecting ourselves before having to go to Derby County on the Sunday. So I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And next into the fryer, it's Derby County. So with our pod not coming back until the 9th of January, we have to look all the way forward to Sunday the 4th of January, kick-off 3 p.m. GMT as Wrexham travel to Pride Park to take on Derby County. Wrexham hosted Derby County in September, where we drew 1-1. Lewis O'Brien getting the Wrexham lead, Brereton equalising for Derby County. Derby have stuck around mid-table for the last, for most of the season. Last 5 results, 3-1 loss at home to Leicester City, 1-1 draw at home to Millwall, 3-0 win away at Sheffield Wednesday, a 1-1 draw at home to Portsmouth, and a 1-1 draw away at Birmingham City, putting them 11th in the league with 8 wins, 8 draws, 7 losses, a goal difference of +1 and 32 points. And the chips are done. So as you say, Jamie, now we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Very, very difficult to predict exactly where we're going to be. I watched the Derby County Birmingham game. Derby County went down to 10 men quite early on and kind of had to fight a little bit. And then eventually Birmingham got a guy sent off as well right at the very, very end. And I think 1-1, was creditable, but they hung on and they're a very resilient side. And we saw that when we played them at home. So, what kind of a game are you expecting? I know it's difficult because now we're looking way into the future and we don't know what's going to be happening with the other 2 games before it. But it is going to be that. I know. Get your crystal ball glass out.
I've got my crystal glass out. Yeah.
But we are looking at the 4 games in 10 days or whatever it is. So it's at the end of that run.
It says ask again later.
Yes, I'm sure it does. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't ask again later because you have to answer me now.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, trying to offer any kind of an insight into what might happen in this game is impossible. It would be difficult to do if we were, if we weren't talking about such a congested fixture period. I mean, look, I don't think. I think Derby are, they're currently sat in 11th. They're probably starting to get somewhere near where, or back to where their fans probably want to see them, more towards the top end of the table, playoffs, etc., etc. They have got some quality players. I only caught a very little bit of that Birmingham game, to be honest with you. Where, to be fair to them, they'd done phenomenally well because they had a player sent off, hadn't they?
Yeah.
Although they were very fortunate at the end not to concede a second goal.
Absolutely.
Towards the end. But look, it's going to be away from home, another ground that have we ever played there before? I'm not sure we've ever.
Yes, I think a long time in the past. I'd have to look
At-
back at when we played them first time, but yeah.
At this newer ground or at the old baseball ground?
I think they played. No, I think yes. To be fair, I think we played at the baseball ground, possibly never at Pride Park. So,
yeah. Okay. So I mean, again, it's another big stadium, isn't it? It's one I would have liked to have tried to have got to, but I can't, unfortunately. I expect a tough game. I think at the end of the day, any game away from home in this league, is going. I think is going to be a tough game. But this is so difficult to offer a prediction on, as to A, how we're going to play, and B, what the result's going to be, just because it's so far ahead and there's so much that can happen in between now and then. I mean, Christ, when is it? On the 4th of January?
Yes, Sunday. Sunday, 4th of January.
I mean, it's crazy to say it, but you could have a new player through the door by then.
Yes.
It's unlikely, but you never know.
Yes, to answer your question, yes, we played at Pride Park, 2007. Almost, in fact, it was January 6th, 2007 in the FA Cup. Well, we lost 3-0, 3-1. Sorry.
Of course, we played in the FA Cup, didn't we? Yeah. I'm expecting a not an easy game because it's away from home. They are a good side on their day. They've got some good players. But yeah, other than that, it's hard to offer any kind of an insight into how the game will be.
So let's wrap the. Let's. Oh dear, kind of getting on. It's time for the something against source score. I'll go first. I predicted a 2-1 Derby County win. I think it's going to be that one step too far for Wrexham. I think they're going to overreach. They're going to be tired, and I think Derby at home are going to be a little bit more on it. Daz has predicted a 1-1 draw. Jamie, what's your score prediction? Of course, yes. Jamie, what's your prediction for Derby County versus Wrexham?
I'm actually going to go for a 2-1 Wrexham win.
Woohoo! Excellent. So all the points are split. So somebody's going to win there, which is great. So let's wrap those ships up to keep them warm. And last into the fryer tonight, it's Cardiff City Women. So Wrexham men will hopefully finish with a win. Fingers crossed. Then 30 minutes later, Wrexham Women kick off at the Cardiff International Sports Village at 5:30 p.m. GMT on the same day. For a top-of-the-table clash with Cardiff City Women. Wrexham and Cardiff met in October where they drew 1-1. Katie Barker taking the lead, but Cardiff getting a penalty in the 85th minute to draw the game level. Cardiff have only played one cup game versus Swansea since the 30th of November, as the league game versus Britain Ferry was called off due to a flooded pitch, and the cup game versus Trevelyan, don't know why, was moved to the 7th of January. This puts Cardiff second in the league at the moment, 5 points behind Wrexham with a game in hand. And the chips are done. So we said it earlier, first game back after the Christmas break. As I say, Cardiff have only played one game in nearly 6 weeks by that point. So they'll be very rested. Wrexham have played a full schedule of league and cup games, including those 2 tough games against Aberystwyth, which they won, plus obviously the one against Penybont. Plus they played obviously a friendly this week before kind of getting Swansea next week. What are you expecting? I mean, I'm hoping, because I'm going to this one, so I'm hoping for a humdinger and a Wrexham win. But is that what's going to happen?
It is a tough one, this, because I think if you remember a couple of weeks ago, when Cardiff's game was postponed, and we were talking about the fact that this was their next game or whatever, and I think I said at the time, I think it plays into their hands a little bit more. Although, like I said earlier, I think I'm not going to say it's a free hit, but I think because of the way it's currently sitting, I think that there's more pressure on them than there is on us. They're at home, they statistically they can't afford to lose this.
No.
I think it just depends on obviously what how we turn up, what kind of team we turn up with and how we approach the game. I think as much as we spoke about on the men's side, that the fact that we've only just seen Parky go with a formation and a style that was sort of handbrake off rather and less defensive. To be fair to Jenny Sugarman, she's the opposite, isn't she? Where the vast majority of the way she plays, no matter what tweak she makes to the system, it's always an offensive lineup and an offensive approach, even against Cardiff. I think she will really, really want to get a win there. Because obviously, we drew with them earlier in the season, and I think she will know the importance or how significant striking a blow in their backyard could be for the season. So I think she will be really desperate, and she'll get the players really up for this, I think. But yeah, it's a tough one, because at the end of the day, you're playing the champions, the best team in the Adran Prem for a long time. And
they've won the season for the last 3 years. They've won the treble once. They've won the double twice. They're an extraordinary side. Ian Derbyshire is arguably the best manager that the league has ever seen.
I mean, when you take everything into account, all the elements into account, like you said at the start, on paper it's got all the ingredients to be a humdinger. But it wouldn't be, it wouldn't surprise me if everything cancels each other out.
But I'll take a 0-0 draw right now. No problem at all.
I think anything other than a defeat is a great result for Wrexham.
Mm-hmm.
A draw would be great. A win would be fantastic. I think anything other than defeat, but even a defeat wouldn't be the end of the world.
No, I'm not. I think that's the important bit, isn't it? Even if we do lose, that's not the end of the world, because we're not even in phase 2 yet.
No.
And as long as we're within touching distance of each other, there's the opportunity. If we're 15 points behind, then you're goosed. You've got no chance. So even if we lose, mentally, maybe that's a bad thing, but it just means you come back again.
I think the really interesting thing for this game is I think you're going to have two teams who are going to be right up for it. For different reasons, but I think they're going to be right up for it, which hopefully will translate into a brilliant game.
Well, it will be live on S4C as well, so you will be able to see it wherever you are in the world, providing you've got a VPN, because I don't think you can get S4C abroad, but I imagine it'll be on iFollow. I don't know, actually. If it's on S4C, I don't think it's on iFollow. So
it's so shit that they've put this game on, or this game is on at the same time as the men are playing.
Well, it's not the same time. It's afterwards.
Well, no. What time does this kick off?
5:30. Men are kicking off at 3:00.
Oh.
When
I looked at this, they still have this down as a 2:00 kickoff.
No. It's 5:30 kickoff because it's for telly.
Oh, all right then.
Everybody else is 2:00, but this is because it's been moved for telly. They put it on at they start the program at 5:15 for 5:5 kickoff. So you'll be able to watch the men. So you'll be able to watch the men at 3:00. If you move to because it's a Sunday, you'll be fine. So you can watch the men at 3:00, and then you'll be able to watch the women at 5:30. So you'll be able to see both games.
Excellent. Well, on the FAW Adran website, they've still got it down as 2:00 kickoff. That's fine.
Yeah, ignore that. It's on telly, so it's 5:30. So that's fine. And if you look at the Wrexham website, it says 5:30. So let's time for the top winning on source score. Oh dear, Jamie, what's your score prediction for Cardiff City Women versus Wrexham Women?
Why am I going first again?
What do you mean again? You've only been first once, and then Daz went first, then I went first. So shut your face.
Brilliant. I am going to go for a 3-2 Wrexham win.
Daz has predicted the 2-2 draw. And I was going to say the same as you. I'll stick with it. I was going to say the same as you. 3-2 Wrexham win. I don't think Wrexham will be able to keep Cardiff out, but I think we'll have enough to score more goals than Cardiff. I mean, having said that, it was a squeaky 1-1. I mean, we nearly won 1-0 in the first game, so I think maybe 3-2 is a bit optimistic. But I'll stick with it. I've got to back the women. Got to do it because I think like you said, I think it's a major step. I think if we win that, I think that puts us absolutely 100% in the driving seat, and I can only see us winning it then, because I think Cardiff will then be too far behind, because they'll be 8 points behind with a game in hand. Right, they have to beat Britain Ferry, so they'd be 5 points behind coming to phase 2, providing obviously we'd have to beat Barry Town and Britain Ferry again. But Barry Town's away, that shouldn't be a problem, because Barry Town at the moment are not particularly playing well. Britain Ferry at least are at home, and we'll have already played them once in the Adran semi-final at home, so we'll know what to expect. And that'll be tough, 2 tough games. Then we'll go into phase 2, and it will be Cardiff, Swansea, and probably TNS. And then it could be anything. But if we've got a 5-point lead at that point, that absolutely puts us in the driving seat. So yeah, this is a big game. Big game. Not the BL and end all, but a big game. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And we'll be looking back at all these games in next week's pod. Well, that's it. Time to pack up the Christmas tree for another year and get ready for New Year festivities. We'll be back on Friday the 9th of January to look back at the 3 Wrexham men's games versus Preston, Blackburn, Rovers and Derby County, and the Wrexham Women's League game versus Cardiff City. And look forward then to 2 exciting cup games where Wrexham men take on Premier League opposition Nottingham Forest in the 3rd round of the FA Cup, and Wrexham Women play for a chance to enter the final of the Junior Adron Trophy by beating Britain Ferry at home in the semi-final. Please let us know by the usual channels on social media, so on YouTube or Spotify or wherever it is, particularly if you want to insult Jamie by calling him unhinged.
Yeah, fucking go for it. You might as well.
That was particularly fun. Watching that.
It was fucking brilliant.
But I will back him 100% because I think he was right. We can only see what we say what we see. That was it. I don't think we're being negative. I don't think we're anything like that. I just think that's all we can do, because that's our opinion. And if you don't agree with our opinion, totally respect that. And if you really don't agree with our opinion, please feel free not to watch. Don't watch or don't listen, because that's fine. It's entirely up to you. We don't mind at all. At the end of the day, we're going to keep doing this because me and my brother used to do this. I've done this for the past 20 years. It just so happens now we film it and record it, but we've always done this. This is how we've always done it. So yeah, there you go. But obviously we enjoy your comments, positive or negative, doesn't matter, because it's all worth it. So please feel free to leave them. Blwyddyn newydd dda. Happy New Year to you all. Jamie, thank you so much. I'll see you on New Year's Day.
Yes, you will. Happy New Year.
Where we go to Blackburn. Daz hopefully will be back with us in the new year after he's had his holiday. So blwyddyn newydd dda to you, Daz, if you are listening. See you all in 2026. And of course, we end in the usual way. Come on, Cymru, and come on the town.
Clinton, 1-0. Thomas, after like a goal. That's number 5.
Plays it through to Bellamy. Craig Bellamy. It's 2-1 Wales. Craig Bellamy. Tony Hughes for Wrexham into the lead.
And that's it! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are champions! Wrexham are the FA Trophy winners 2013!
Alex Cross, great ball! Equaliser! Elliot Lee!
Back to back promotions. Can you believe it?
The Eat More Chips Podcast.